5 o'clock on the dot this Wednesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. In North Nashville, hazmat crews were working on the scene of a fuel spill. It had two northbound lanes of 65 closed at the Trinity Lane exit. And then in Sumner County, Millersville, 65 northbound is closed due to a vehicle fire. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Another State of the Union address is in the books. Here's Faith Abube.
The president's address touching on a host of issues, including a call for an assault weapons ban, abortion rights, funding for Ukraine, policing and immigration reform, as well as his administration's effort to cool inflation, urging Republicans to join him to finish the job.
If we could work together the last Congress, there's no reason we can't work together and find consensus on important things in this Congress as well.
Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders delivering the Republican response.
The Biden administration seems more interested in woke fantasies than the hard reality Americans face every day.
Stay with Super Talk 99.7 WTN for reaction and analysis all morning long. Dan Mandis is in our nation's capital this morning. He'll be joined by Tennessee U.S. Senator Bill Hagerty at 6:35 right here on Nashville's Morning News. Right now in Tennessee, the House Local Government Committee passed that bill to cut the Metro Nashville City Council in half, 20 members instead of 40. Channel 4 says Democrats sounded off afterward.
This is a targeted attempt to usurp and undermine the will of the people and the voters of Davidson County. This action has been taken against the will of the voters and against the will of our elected officials.
Supporters of the bill say it's to rein in excessive government growth. And a bill to limit gender care for minors continues to advance toward passage in the legislature. It passed the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday on a party line vote 7-2. Democrats say it's going to lead to teenagers committing suicide. But News Channel 5 says a woman testified how she wishes she had never had the treatment when she was a teenager. Presha Mosley testifying she now has two huge scars where her breasts should be. She says she has no hips, she has large shoulders, she suffered hair loss, and concluded by saying she decided not to be a woman before ever getting to be one. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, beaconcm.com. Here's Daria Albinger.
Stocks closed higher as investors reacted to comments from the head of the Fed. The Dow soared 266 points, the Nasdaq jumped 226, and the S&P closed up 53. Fed Chair Jerome Powell told an economic conference in Washington, D.C., that as the job market continues to strengthen or as inflation accelerates, it may have to raise its benchmark interest rate higher than it's been projecting. The comments, which are Powell's first since the central bank's latest rate hike, 0.25%, and an unexpectedly high January job report, takes a bit of uncertainty out of the Fed's strategy, and that does put investors at ease. Disney has been the envy of private businesses with its unprecedented powers in deciding what to build and how to build it at Walt Disney World. Well, those days may be numbered, with Florida lawmakers expected to pass a bill that would shift control to the governor and legislative leaders.
Now, futures are down before the opening bell on Wall Street this morning. Dow off 75, S&P off 12, NASDAQ down 36. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
5:06 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, folks. Johnny B. Ken Weaver, how are you, gents? I got to tell you, it has been so much fun here in our nation's capital this morning. By the way, broadcasting live from our friends at the Heritage Foundation. They've got studios here in Washington, D.C., and that is where I am this morning. And I got to tell you, I have so many stories to share with you regarding my my first trip to the State of the Union. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to tell you that despite Joe Biden's speech, despite the president's speech, full of lies and exaggerations and obfuscations, I've actually had a lot of fun and really looking forward, though, to heading back to Middle Tennessee later on this morning. If you are follow me on Facebook, you will notice I posted a photograph this morning, gents. A big photograph of me with a massive bandage on my head. I will tell you what happened at 5:35. I will tell you that there was a lot of blood, and we'll just leave it at that. I would like to say that it was a barroom brawl, and I was saving, children and old ladies from tigers, but the real story isn't quite that interesting. So we'll get into that at 5:35 during the Gang of Three Amigos here on Super Talk 89.7 WTN. Also, by the way, we've got Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation. He'll be joining us later this morning at 7:05 here on Nashville's Morning News. Going to look ahead to the next election, of course, in 2024. Will it be free and fair? We'll talk about that straight ahead, and also Senator Bill Hagerty. He'll be joining us at 6:35 here on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So the president had all kinds of things to say yesterday, and it is stunning to me, and I've said this before, where the president, it's almost like he's got this lack of self-awareness, where he says these things and they are so easily proven to be lies. And so the headline in the Daily Mail, Republicans tear into Biden's lies as he repeats misleading claims he has created more jobs than any other president, has created the biggest deficit reduction in history, and the GOP wants to get rid of Social Security and Medicare. Now, one of the things I'm going to talk about this morning, especially with Senator Hagerty, Scott Desjarlais, the congressman, will also be joining us at some point this morning. But one of the things that I noticed is that the Republicans were a lot more raucous this time. I mean, they were actually, it was like they were yelling back at Biden. You remember a long time ago when, I forget who it was, but somebody on the Republican side screamed, "Liar!" when I think it was Obama that was giving his State of the Union, and everybody just was horrified. Well, there was a lot more heckling this time than last time. But you know what the thing is? When you're there and in the building and you're watching all of this, you have the Democrats, because it's a Democrat president, right? So you have the Democrats, and they are standing up. They're cheering, they're just, fist bumping, and they're just really excited. So my question or statement would be this. If the Democrats are able to do that, well, then why can't the Republicans air their grievances in return? I will tell you that there were moments last night during Biden's State of the Union where it felt like literally all decorum was lost. And I've got the audio to prove it. I've got so much to tell you and so much to play for you. I want to get this in real quickly. This is the president, and one of the big ones that he told last night, talking about how he has created 12 million jobs. Listen.
2 years ago, the economy was reeling. I stand here tonight after we've created, with the help of many people in this room, 12 million new jobs.
Nope.
More jobs created in 2 years than any president's created in 4 years.
Nope.
Because of you all.
Nope.
Because of the American people.
Now, here's what I will say about that. First of all, he's claiming credit for all of these new jobs. 12 million new jobs in 2 years, supposedly. Realize, though, that he is disregarding the COVID rebound. Realize that a lot of those jobs that rebounded or that he supposedly created were actually jobs that Donald Trump helped create. So when the president says, oh, I created 12 million new jobs, that's not actually the case. That's not actually the case at all. And that is one of many lies and obfuscations and exaggerations that the president has talked about last night. Here's another soundbite, and this is actually one of my favorites. Listen to this. This is the president. And by the way, all across the internet today, you do have media, including media that, you know, not always on the Republican side, but they are siding with the Republicans in the sense that when Biden talks about claiming credit for 12 million jobs, completely ignoring the COVID rebound, where you had all of these jobs and all of these industries that were destroyed by the COVID shutdown, then all those people ended up going back to work. And they're doing that to this day. And Biden is claiming that he created those jobs when no, those jobs are actually simply coming back. Here's another audio bite from the president.
Too many people have been left behind and treated like they're invisible. Maybe that's you watching from home. Remember the jobs that went away. You remember them, don't you?
Uh-huh.
The folks at home remember them.
Yeah, the folks at home do remember them. When he said that, I darn near jumped out of my seat. I was going to be the one that screamed, liar! Because you know what I thought of? When he said that, the jobs that went away, it was like, friends, it was like I was triggered. Because I thought about all of the jobs that were lost when the president mandated vaccines. Whether it was in the private sector, giving corporations the permission to fire all of those people for not having the vaccination, we could go down the road of the military as well. So there's a lot of layers when the president is trying to seem like he really cares for the American people, that he really cares for you, that he really cares for the people that have been thrown out of work because of his vaccine mandates. Now, I do understand that it was overturned by the Supreme Court. I totally understand that. But for a lot of people, especially our friends in the military, especially our friends in the medical community, for a lot of people, it's too late. And so when the president talks about all of those people that were left behind, yeah, you're right, President Biden, there have been a lot of people left behind. The ones that essentially you mandated to be fired. Oddly enough, surprisingly enough, he, of course, left that out of his speech. It is 5:15 on Nashville's Morning News. Time to check the roads from the Paul Winkler Investment WTN Traffic Center. Thank you, Jack. And today our weather is going to be rainy and a high of 65. Right now, 54 degrees at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. By the way, I'm sure you folks have figured it out that, at least I don't know if Ken and Johnny have the cameras on this morning, but I am hunkered down in a studio in Washington, D.C., broadcasting live from the Heritage Foundation after the President's State of the Union last night. So there is a number of things that, again, the President had to say that really do demand, quite frankly, more context, including the President talking about a crime. And I'm going to play this audio for you where the President talks about how COVID left its scars on America, like the spike in violent crime in 2020, the first year of the pandemic. This is what the President had to say.
COVID left its scars like the spike in violent crime in 2020.
So it had nothing to do with the defund the police movement, right? It had nothing to do with bail reforms. It had nothing to do with anything regarding disrespecting the police. And then, of course, we found many members of law enforcement leaving law enforcement because they didn't like being disrespected. They didn't like the fact that the president and Democrats were out there disparaging them at every turn. No, had nothing to do with any of that. It only had to do with the pandemic. Is that really what the president was trying to sell last night? It seemed like it to me. And, it's interesting because the more that the president spoke, the more I realized that on the one hand, he kept saying that Republicans and Democrats need to work together. Did you catch this? Where Republicans and Democrats need to work together, yet he disparaged them at every turn. He lied about them at every turn. Hence, the heckling of the Republicans back. We'll get into that amazing audio straight ahead. But here's more from the president basically saying, at least it sounds to me, the president saying that it was COVID that caused the spike in violent crime in 2020. I'm sorry, should we call them peaceful protests?
First year of the pandemic. We have an obligation to make sure all people are safe. COVID left us.
Well, yeah, and I would agree with the president on that. We do have an obligation to keep all people safe. The problem that I would say that the Democrats have is that they were the brand of defund the police. And so when the president said, it was COVID that left the scars with a rise in violent crime. No, it wasn't COVID. It was the defund the police movement after the situation, after the death of George Floyd. Because Democrats thought they could take advantage of the crisis that was the death of George Floyd. So that is one very big example. I mean, huge example of the president lying to the American people. Somewhere in my audio bites here, I have the president saying, and I was kind of shocked actually when he said it, when he said, the American people, they're tired of being taken for suckers. Here it is. I'm going to play this for you very quickly. Then I gotta jump to a break. Big shock. I'm already running late. But it was funny. The president had this to say about the American people and about how the American people are tired of being played for suckers. Listen.
Americans are tired of being. We're tired of being played for suckers.
So let's just talk about that for a moment. Americans are tired of being played for suckers. In a State of the Union speech where the president, and I just played you examples of a couple of different lines in the speech where the president was trying to play the American people for suckers. When he said that, he has been able to create 12 million new jobs. Biden, trying to pass that one over on the American people, is playing them for suckers. Or when the president tried to blame COVID for the huge, massive spike, the big rise in violent crime in cities across America. Democrat-run cities, by the way, across America. That also is the president trying to play the American people for suckers. So I found it so funny as I was listening. And when I heard the president say,
Americans are tired of being. We're tired of being played for suckers.
Well, the big question that I'm going to ask then is, and I believe that is true, by the way, and lying Biden, every time you turn around, this president is telling another lie. And that's true. I mean, I hope you listen to me every morning, but if you listen to me for any length of time, you know that I have chronicled and documented the president and his administration and their lies time and time and time again. So when the president says that the American people are tired of being played for suckers, well, yeah, because you're the guy that is trying to pass off all of these lies on the American people, thinking that they are suckers. Oh, there's more. There's a lot more. The president at one point, I'm going to play this coming up. The president at one point talked about, I'm going to put this in air quotes, the talk, where black and brown, this is his words now, black and brown families have to have those very difficult conversations with their children about ways to handle the police and authority. We'll talk about that straight ahead. It is Nashville's Morning News. Dan Mandis here live from the studios of the Heritage Foundation in our nation's capital. We'll return next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Give us some more highlights of the State of the Union address last night, also the rebuttal. And here in Tennessee, a bill that limits city councils to 20 members, which will significantly impact Nashville, continues to advance. And another startling increase in the death toll in southern Turkey and northern Syria. These stories and more at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. Dan Mandis here live from our nation's capital, from the Heritage Foundation and their studios here. And I went and saw the State of the Union last night. Gents, I was right above the squad. Like, if I wanted to crumple up a piece of paper and if I wanted to throw it at, AOC or Ilhan Omar, no, I'm not being violent. But I could have if I so chose. So we're going to talk about that, and you're never going to guess. We were joking yesterday about, who I would like to awkwardly share an elevator with.
Yeah.
Wait till you hear who I shared an elevator with last night.
I can't wait, Brother Dan.
Well, you're going to have to, because I'm running late already. Show just started, and I'm already running late.
You're shanking it, Dan. You're shanking it.
I'm already shanking it. That's all right. Yeah, by the way, can you call them highlights? Do you call them highlights or do you call them lowlights? Johnny and I were debating that as during the break. We will talk about that and a whole lot more straight ahead here
Maybe I
at
should just
Super
say
Talk.
sound bites.
You could say sound bites. Sure, you could say that as well. Whatever works. I want to tell you folks about the Glock store in Nashville. Dan Mandis here, talking about my friends at the Glock store, where I get my firearms training, and so should you. Now, I've been bragging about my fantastic Glock store training to my wife, Amy, and now she believes that she would like to try it out as well. And here in the month of February, she can do it with me in a couple session at the Glock store. Now, if this all sounds very familiar, they did this last year. It was a huge success, and it is exactly what you've been waiting for. Couples training sessions at the Glock store. By the way, if your significant other is thinking about a handgun of their own, all couples sessions also come with a free handgun rental to help them choose the absolutely perfect gun for you. That's right. During your session, they can also try out as many of their huge variety of rental handguns that the Glock store has available, with or without optics, as you would like. So it is a great deal from the Glock store in Nashville. To book your February couple session, go to shoot270.com, shoot270.com. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out, 615-680-6565, 680-6565.
5:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we're tracking that bad traffic problem north of Nashville. Yes, it is 65 northbound at Millersville is closed due to a vehicle fire. This is 65 northbound between Millersville, Springfield, Highway 31 West, Exit 98, and then Bethel Road, right there in Sumner County. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Here's one of President Biden's lines from his State of the Union address last night.
My administration has cut the deficit by more than $1.7 trillion, the largest deficit reduction in American history.
And Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who spent 2.5 years in the Trump administration with the Republican rebuttal, says the White House has been, quote, hijacked by the radical left, and President Biden refuses to defend the border.
Republicans believe in an America where strong families thrive in safe communities, where jobs are abundant and paychecks are rising, where the freedom our veterans shed their blood to defend is the birthright of every man, woman, and child.
Again, Dan Mandis is in Washington, D.C. with analysis and reaction from Tennessee U.S. Senator Bill Hagerty coming up at 6:35. Right now in Tennessee, a bill that limits city councils to 20 members continues to advance in the legislature. This will significantly impact Nashville, which has 40 Metro Council members. It'd be down to 20. Well, it passed the House Local Government Committee yesterday. Next goes to the House Finance, Ways, and Means Committee. And the death toll from the earthquake and aftershocks in southern Turkey now growing to more than 11,000. Lionel Moise says American search and rescue teams have arrived in the region.
More than 70 countries and 14 international organizations have now offered aid to Turkey, but the concern is growing that Syria, ravaged by years of civil war, is getting far less help, due in part to economic sanctions and political conflict. An estimated 23 million people have been affected by Monday's earthquake.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. 532, Nashville's Morning News. Business is booming over at Stoltzco, and the question is why? Well, it's because at Stoltzco, they build great pole barns, and more Tennesseans are actually figuring that out. Now, if you don't know what a pole barn is, it's anything you want it to be. A classic tool and work barn, a garage, even a place to live. A pole barn is practical, efficient, and flexible, and a pole barn from Stoltzco is going to stand the test of time. So, if you're hearing this commercial right now and thinking about a piece of land you have or a section of your property that you really don't know what to do with, put up a pole barn from Stoltzco. Call them, tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. 615-622-5992, 615-622-5992. Stoltzco, where quality workmanship and great customer service is affordable. 537 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, Dan Mandis, live from our nation's capital. Along with Johnny B. and Ken Weaver, gents. I would much rather be, I hope people understand that I would much rather be in Middle Tennessee. But I am here live from the studios of the Heritage Foundation after watching the State of the Union speech last night.
I like how you said that, Brother Dan. Live from our nation's capital.
Well, you know, Brian Wilson used to say that all the time, so I just go ahead and, use that line as well. Because I think it sounds kind of cool and...
Oh, it's very dramatic.
Yes. Dramatic. It sounds important, doesn't it? If they only knew. If they only knew what happened to me last night. So I've got this massive... And we'll get to the political stuff. But if you go to the Dan Mandis Show Facebook page, my first post in quite a while, as a matter of fact, I posted a photo of me with a massive bandage on my head. This stuff only happens to me. So I'm in the hotel, and we're all men of a certain age. So we know that when Mother Nature calls, it's not a suggestion.
No.
So the lights are off. I'm extraordinarily tired because I didn't catch a nap before the State of the Union. I've been up since 1 o'clock the day before, in the morning the day before. So I'm exhausted. It's one of those, I'm so tired that I feel out of body. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I get up. I've got to go to the bathroom. I'm a little disoriented. But you know what? My bladder didn't want to hear it.
No.
My bladder was like, you get your tail to the bathroom.
Yes, sir.
So I stumble into the bathroom. I'm fumbling for the lights. I can't find the lights, but I kind of sort of know where the toilet is. I head to the toilet, and bam! My head hits the partition thing, the glass thing between the toilet and the shower. It was a sharp edge, and I am now on the toilet bleeding profusely.
And still having to go to the bathroom.
Oh, I was bleeding badly, and I was going to the bathroom as well. And I'm sitting there, and yes, I was sitting. I was, doing number one, but I was sitting because I was about to pass out. And so I'm feeling my head. I don't even know what the hell's going on because I don't know what I've hit. I'm sitting in the dark. And so I feel my head, and I think, holy beep, I think I'm bleeding. And then I get dizzy, and I thought, oh, my God, I'm going to pass out. I hit my head that hard.
Wow. Nobody's going to find me.
I'm not going to show up for the radio show tomorrow, and people are not going to know what happened to Mandis, and they're going to walk in, and I'm going to be passed out like Elvis on the floor of the bathroom.
Oh, my goodness.
So finally, I find the light. And I see, guys, I kid you not, I have a quarter-size gash on my head, on my forehead.
Goodness.
Now, I'm bald, so this thing is like beep, beep, beep.
Like a beacon.
Look at me!
So,
look at me!
And realize it is, I remember the time, it was like 11:47. And so I'm now trying to sleep with a bloody towel on my forehead. And I can't sleep on my back, but I didn't want to get a bunch of blood on the sheets of the bed because, they'll be like, what the world happened in here? Well, anyway, so then I woke up and I saw the car. It was still bleeding when I woke up. Wow. I mean, I'm only going on maybe 90 minutes of sleep.
Goodness.
So, because I was afraid that if I fell into a heavy sleep, I would end up in a coma.
Well,
because my head was throbbing. And it's still kind of throbbing. Do I sound okay? Do I sound like I have a concussion?
What do your pupils look like? Have you looked at your pupils?
I have not looked at my pupils.
Look at them.
Well, it's a little hard right now.
Well, no, just hold your phone up to it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Look at them, and if they're dilated, then you maybe need to go see a doctor.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, do I sound like I need to go see a doctor?
Well, I mean, you don't sound any different than any other day.
No, you sound like
I'll take that as a compliment, Ken.
I mean, today you sound like you've got a big bump on your head, but
I know pupils look fine.
All right, pupils
look. You know what?
Are okay.
You know what the crazy? This is the second time this has happened in a month.
You hitting your head?
I'm turning into Les Nessman.
Goodness.
I'm going to have bandages on my head every time people see me.
And your arms. Remember, he always had one on his forearm.
Yes.
Well, as long as you keep your door up in your office, not have a pretend door.
You know, I was thinking I could say that I was beating my head against the wall because of Biden's speech. I saved a lady from a bear. I took on the gangs of Washington, D.C. You should have seen the other guy. But I just figured, because I'm always honest with folks, and I'd tell you what happened. So that is what happened. Now, guess who I was in the elevator with? Because we were joking. I could end up in an elevator with AOC or Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib or some of these other people from the squad.
Yeah.
Do you know who I was in the elevator with last night? Pencil neck Adam Schiff.
Oh, you're kidding.
Really?
No.
Oh, man, you were with Shifty Schiff.
I was with Shifty Schiff.
Oh, man.
What'd you say to him?
You know what? I was with Scott Desjarlais, and I wasn't going to embarrass Scott.
You go. Yeah.
But I was going to say, hey, what do you think of that? What the pencil legislation to remove him from any classified information, if I remember right?
Yes.
What do you think of that, Shifty Schiff? But you know what? I just didn't want to embarrass Congressman Desjarlais because I was there as his guest.
Yeah. So was it just you, Congressman Desjarlais, and Schiff?
Yes.
So
it was just the three of us.
Was there any conversation at all?
No, it was the awkward silence that you might have. I mean, the two congressmen exchanged pleasantries.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I so wanted to take a selfie and just post it. But then, you know what? I didn't want people to, I didn't want to be that guy, because I think there's certain, although last night it really seemed like all the protocol went out the window.
Yeah.
But I believe that there is a certain protocol, a certain understanding.
Well, yes.
I was talking to one congressman who is very conservative, and he said, I had the first ever conversation with Rashida Tlaib the other day. Great conversation. No problem whatsoever.
Really?
And one of the things that this guy said is that he thinks that, and I actually agree with this to a certain extent, when the cameras are not on, they're actually kind of sort of quasi-normal.
Yeah.
But it's when the camera's on that their hijinks and shenanigans really begins.
Yeah, they're putting on a show.
Well, that's exactly right. Now, you should have seen, first of all, can I just say the Capitol building, I've never been inside. Unbelievable. I mean, ornate doesn't even begin to describe the Capitol building. Yeah. It is incredible. And I'm so glad that I went. I'm so glad that you two and my wife Amy said, what the heck are you talking about? You're not going to go to the State of the Union. So now I have a permanent reminder of the State of the Union with the scar on my forehead.
And all we want you to do, Dan, is put your feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk.
You know what? I was in Kevin McCarthy's office, and I saw the desk, and I'm thinking to myself, would anybody find it funny if I asked if I could take a selfie with my feet up on the desk?
Oh, I was hoping.
Because it was Nancy Pelosi's old office.
Yeah.
But again, insurrection jokes not recommended at the state cap at the nation's capital.
That's probably not a good idea.
Well, Dan, I got to point out to you, in your absence, we have a picture of you up that the camera is on.
Yes.
And Chris,
I'm so proud of you two. You know what I feel like? I feel like the first time that I left my children at home alone and they didn't burn the house down.
That's us.
You guys actually turned the camera on. I'm very proud of you. Thank you.
I haven't had anything to do with it. It's all brother Johnny B.
But
Hi, JB.
Chris Hand has now just put he's put a Band-Aid over your head.
Of course he has.
On this picture. So it's true to life.
It is true life. It is very much true life. Now, did anybody watch the State of the Union? Anyone at all?
I did. I watched the first 15 minutes of it this morning, and it was interesting. The president's opening remarks. How many gaffes were in the opening remarks?
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, it just started right off the bat.
I'm just going to tell you, I had a hard time hearing the president, understanding the president, because a couple things. One, I was up in the gallery, right? So I'm looking down on everyone, and so I'm listening, and the audio just isn't great. So that's number one. Number two is you've got the president slurring and mumbling. I think it's his dentures flying all over the damn place. I couldn't understand him. And so I didn't know when I was supposed to boo unless I saw Kevin McCarthy booing. By the way,
well, the speaker wasn't booing.
Have you ever noticed? Well, no, but the Republicans did.
I got you. Okay.
And no, but one of the best parts. I saw this live, and then I saw the tape where Biden was talking about something. I forget what it was. And as I said in my opening remarks, the Republicans were quite raucous last night. I mean, they were heckling the president. I've never seen this before. So there was one moment where I don't know. I think maybe it was Lauren Boebert, and she said, I think it was her, or somebody down on the Republican side started heckling Biden, and McCarthy gave them a look like,
Really?
Not for this comment. Yeah. Yeah, he was giving some of these Republicans the stink eye because he knows that you can't be so incredibly raucous or belittling or yelling back at the president that you lose credibility.
Yep.
Right? So
that is true.
That's exactly right. So the president, he said a lot of things, man, and I've got a lot of audio and. I'm going to be spending the time playing the audio. And the thing is that you couldn't understand a lot of the things that he said, but the things that you could understand were lies and obfuscations. I just like, he actually said illegal immigration is down. Are you kidding me? Really?
Oh, please.
I mean, but this is what he does.
Well, yeah, they're all here.
That's exactly right. That's a great point, Johnny.
Yeah, there are no more to go around.
Yes.
That is exactly right. And so I just, let's see, I'm looking at some of these. No one brought any white balloons to the floor. 8431. Any of the white balloons at the door? No. 8431. No one brought white balloons to the Capitol. There were jokes about that, though. I will tell you, there were congressmen that were saying that they wanted to bring the white balloons, but it was frowned upon. So they decided not to do it.
How long did it take him to address the elephant in the room, which is our skyrocketing prices? I counted it took almost an hour before he actually said anything.
About inflation?
About inflation.
Well,
if anything at all.
Well, the crazy thing is he knows that that's not necessarily a great selling point. He tries to sell it as some sort of a selling point, but it's really not.
Yeah, yeah.
And so and you'll notice that he didn't say the state of the nation is strong or the state of the union is strong. He didn't say that till the end. Mm-hmm. And so I think most people had either fallen asleep or tuned away at that point. I know I was.
Yeah.
Now, Michael Dogiorno was absolutely right. I, for 90 minutes, was sitting there waiting to go to the bathroom, man. And so I had no coffee because I was paranoid about that. And so with no coffee and being up for a long period of time, gentlemen, I was beginning to nod off. I mean, after a while, it was just like, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to pull a Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I actually said to the woman next to me, who was a Democrat, by the way, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I said to the woman next to me, listen, and I'm serious, if I start to nod off, will you just elbow me, please? And she said, why? Why would you nod off? And I said, well, one, it's Biden. And two, which she didn't, because she's a Democrat, she didn't seem to appreciate that humor.
I bet not.
She didn't like that, did she, Brother Dan?
No, she didn't. And I did say a few things to her, and then I realized that, when you're talking to somebody else who's of the other persuasion.
Oh, yeah.
They don't necessarily take your comments as good-natured.
No,
not like we Republicans, not like we conservatives. We take everything with just a grain of humor, don't we?
Yes,
well, they're all victims.
Sure, that's what it is, Ken. They are all victims. All right, we got to go. 5:52, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
sponsored by Blindster.com.
I'll second guest dinners with friends because they can be interrupted by diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or oily stools. It turns out I have EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which means I'm missing the enzymes needed to digest food. My doctor prescribed Creon, pancrelipase, an oral prescription medication that replaces pancreatic digestive enzymes. Creon treats EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you're allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit creoninfo.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREONinfo.com.
.65 north between Millersville and Bethel Road here. Got that vehicle fire situation they're trying to clean up, and that has got things backed up from Bethel all the way back to about the Long Hollow Pike exit right now. 65 south looks all right. 40 west coming into downtown, starting to see a little bit of activity pick up. A 24 still remains clear from the borough up to 440. I'm Jack Womack. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.557 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Coming up next, did you hear what Joe Biden said last night about quote-unquote the talk? We'll get into that. And yes, he really did say that illegal immigration is going down. A lot of things the president said last night simply not true. We'll go over that and a whole lot more. Senator Bill Hagerty going to be joining us as well. It's all straight ahead on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
WTN, Hendersonville, Nashville. From the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Studios.
And the Mark Spain Real Estate WTN Newsroom. Information-fueled, opinion-driven.
This is Nashville's news and talk leader.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 6 o'clock on the dot this Wednesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we're tracking the potential for damaging winds here in Middle Tennessee. We'll tell you about it during the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Another State of the Union address in the books. Here's Faith Abube.
The president's speech prompting multiple rounds of applause from both sides of the political aisle as he talked about issues like public safety, spotlighting the parents of Tyree Nichols in the room. But the warm welcome by the politically divided Congress quickly turning into a rowdy reception.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority.
Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene among those seen calling the president a liar. President Biden grinning and engaging with the jeering Republicans.
Well, I'm glad to see you. And I tell you, I enjoy conversion.
Now, Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett tweeted, the president didn't name a single Republican who wants to cut Medicaid or Medicare because they don't exist. Stay with Super Talk 99.7 WTN for continuing coverage. Nashville's Morning News, Dan Mandis in our nation's capital with analysis and reaction. Tennessee U.S. Senator Bill Hagerty joins Dan at 6:35. Right now in Tennessee, the House Local Government Committee advanced the bill that limits the number of city council members in cities across the state to 20. Here in Nashville, there are 40. Channel 4 says Democrats sounded off.
This is a targeted attempt to usurp and undermine the will of the people and the voters of Davidson County. This action has been taken against the will of the voters and against the will of our elected officials.
Supporters of the bill say it's to rein in excessive government growth. And a bill to limit transgender care for minors who either want to be a boy when they're a girl or vice versa continues to advance toward passage in the legislature. It passed the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday on a party line vote, 7-2. Democrats say it's going to lead to suicide, but News Channel 5 says a woman testified how she wishes she had never had that treatment when she was a teenager. Presha Mosley testifying she now has 2 huge scars where her breasts should be. She says she has no hips, but she does have large shoulders. She suffered hair loss and concluded by saying she decided not to be a woman before ever getting to be one. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Here's Jim Ryan.
A day of drifting ended with a stock market rally that sent the Dow Jones 265 points higher yesterday to close at 34,156. The S&P gained 1.3%. The NASDAQ composite rose nearly 2%. Friday's stronger than expected jobs report could push the Federal Reserve into keeping interest rates higher for longer. Many traders, though, are banking right now that the Fed is nearing the end of this current series of rate hikes. A sharp rebound in the travel industry has Delta Airlines boosting some employees' pay by up to 5%. The raises take effect on April 1st. They apply to Delta's flight attendants and ground workers. The key to reversing global warming may lie in reflecting sunlight back into space. You do that by releasing plane loads of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere. A private venture has awarded scientists from Africa, Asia, and South America $900,000 to study the idea.
All right, futures are down before the opening bell on Wall Street. Dow off 92, S&P off 15, NASDAQ down 35. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
We talk news. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
6:07 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you. Dan Mandis here, live from our nation's capital and live from the studios of the Heritage Foundation. Yes, indeed, I was at the train wreck that was the state of delusion of Joe Biden. It really didn't seem to be like the State of the Union. It was really a state of delusion for President Joe Biden and the Democrats. I'm going to get into some of the more relevant sound bites because the president did say a lot. One of the things that I noticed, though, and a lot of people did pick this up, is the president, he just, like, Angry Joe shows up last night. And it was interesting because he was talking about China and Xi Jinping.
Autocracy has grown weaker, not stronger. Name me a world leader who changed places with Xi Jinping. Name me one. Name me one.
And when the president, he's just, what? Name me one. It's like, dude, chill out, man. Chill out. And he just Angry Joe.
Name me one.
It's okay. Well, I probably could. Who would want to change places with Xi Jinping?
Name me one.
I don't know. I'm reasonably certain that I could find one if I really thought about it, if I cared enough.
Yeah, get off my lawn. What does he even mean by that?
I think what he's saying, because I had a hard time understanding what he was saying too.
Name me one.
Well, I think what he meant is that we, as in America, have Xi Jinping and China on the run. I think that's what he means. Like we've got China right where we want them.
Yeah, they're shaking in their boots.
They're one of the biggest economies in the world. He is, of course, someone who is a brutal leader, and he is someone who wields extraordinary power across the world. So when the president says,
"Name me one,"
I'm pretty sure that if we did a poll of some of the some of the nations out there and some of the leaders, some of the little tyrants that are out there, I'd be willing to bet that there would be some who would want to be Xi Jinping.
Name me one.
But I think I looked down at the Republicans and they did seem a little kind of like looking at each other, like. Is he gonna blow a vessel?
Name me one.
I mean, that's what it sounded like.
That's old take you out to the woodshed, Joe, right there.
That is exactly what it sounds like. But see, the funny thing was, it wasn't one of those moments where he should be angry. I'll be honest with you, at that point in the speech, I was kind of nodding off a little bit.
Name me one.
And then it just brought me right back into the speech. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe the president was trying to wake everybody up.
I noticed that fella up on the top's falling asleep. Watch this.
I know, right?
Name me one, young man. Get off my lawn.
So the president also said this about China.
Fentanyl is killing.
No, this is about the border. Let me play this real quick.
We're in the strongest position in decades to compete with China or anyone else in the world.
Right.
Anyone else in the world.
Okay.
And I'm committed. I'm committed to work with China where we can advance American interests and benefit the world. But make no mistake about it.
Listen to this.
As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did.
What? You let their balloon fly across America. I mean, we will protect our sovereignty. No, you didn't. You let their spy balloon fly down through Alaska, Canada, over Montana, and all the way to the eastern seaboard and beyond. So when the president said that...
As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did.
You did not act to protect our country. Not in any way, shape, or form. So that's what I mean. When I said that the president's speech last night, it wasn't the State of the Union, it was State of Joe's delusion. Because dude's got delusions of grandeur, because clearly everyone in America knows, even Democrats know, that Joe Biden simply did not stand up to China when it really mattered. He allowed that balloon to fly across our country, over our nuclear sites. knowing full well that President Xi Jinping did that on purpose. And he's got the audacity to say that he stood up to China. No, Joe, you did not stand up to China. That balloon, as I stated on day one, that balloon really was nothing more than a middle finger to you and America, courtesy of China. So I like how the president, our president, is, trying to act tough when it comes to Xi Jinping. But I'm here to tell you that the president did nothing but evoke weakness on the world stage last night. It doesn't matter how loud he yelled.
Name me one.
It did matter, because for the better part of an hour and 10 minutes, President Biden was nothing but expressing weakness, lies, obfuscations, and really, as I said a few moments ago, delusions of grandeur. He did, by the way, talk about the border.
Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year. Big, you got it.
Now, if you can't hear what they're saying, I believe that's Lauren Boebert, and she's saying it's your fault.
I heard that.
And listen, can anybody disagree that it is Joe Biden's fault when you talk about the fentanyl coming across our southern border? I mean, the border is wide open. We have well over 100,000 people a year dying of fentanyl. China, the ingredients, as everyone knows, the ingredients are coming from China. So is it Joe Biden's fault? Well, you know what? He keeps saying that he is standing up to China. He is protecting our sovereignty. Really? I mean, not to belabor the point, but you did let their spy balloon fly across America in a 3 or 4 day spectacle. That's number one. And number two, when you talk about our sovereignty, well, you're letting all of these illegal aliens and drugs like fentanyl and the ingredients coming from China coming across our southern border as well. So the president did everything he could to sound tough, but he didn't sound tough. And there's more, by the way, to this soundbite. I've got a little bit more for you because I feel like, and I'm going to ask Senator Hagerty this question at 6:35, the president, he was heckled more than I've ever seen. I mean, it was almost a constant, and I believe that it was Lauren Boebert. I think it was some of the other folks as well, who are, some people would say, known troublemakers. I don't necessarily believe that, but it's what I would say the usual folks that would do such a thing. And so now you have people on the left that are criticizing the Republicans for heckling the president, for lowering the decorum of the State of the Union. But I guess I would ask the question. So what is more angerifying to you as an American in Middle Tennessee? What is more angerifying to you? The Republicans speaking the truth as the president does this speech, this delusions of grandeur, this state of delusion that he was embarking in last night, and the Republicans speak the truth? Would you be angry at the Republicans for speaking the truth, or would you be angry at the president for the delusions, the lies, and the obfuscations that he was engaged in last night, telling the American people all of these lies regarding what the Republicans want to do, what the Republicans have done, and the state of our nation? It is 6:15. Time to check the roads from the Paul Winkler Investment, WTN Traffic Center. Thank you, Jack. Rain today, a high of 65. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Going over, Dan Mandis here, along with Ken Weaver and Johnny B, going over some of these delusions of grandeur, or just delusions of the president last night during the State of the Union speech. And so there was, in the headlines today, you do have the stories accusing the Republicans of interrupting the president, blah, 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 blah. Well, listen very closely. This is, again, I believe it's Lauren Boebert, who is calling the president, basically a liar and telling him that the fentanyl crisis in America is his fault.
Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year. Big, you got it.
Did you hear that? She said something to the effect of, you're not standing up for America, you're not standing up to China, and it's your fault.
You got it.
No, it was a guy who screamed, it's your fault. But listen how people just, you've got the Democrats who are so incredibly horrified that the Republicans would be engaged in, talking back to the president. Well, here's the thing. It is the president's fault. I was sitting next to a woman up in the gallery who was the wife of a congressman who was a congressman on the border. I think it was in Texas. And it was in Texas. And it was interesting because when this was going on, and she and I were making, pleasant, polite, awkward, small talk conversation. And so when this was going on, she looked absolutely horrified that the Republicans would actually say that it was Joe Biden's fault. And I felt like saying to her, because she looked at me like I was going to agree with her that the Republicans are horrific, and I just sort of shrugged my shoulders. And in my mind, I wasn't going to get into a fight with the lady, but in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, look at this logically. Borders are open. He's not standing up to China. And he rarely, if ever, talks about the situation with fentanyl. So, yeah, at least for me, the more that the president continues to neglect the southern border, he's got to take responsibility for it. And don't sit here, I would say to the president, don't sit here and try and pretend like you are protecting our sovereignty. Whether it was the spy balloon or the fentanyl or the illegal aliens, the president has to bear responsibility. And I think that's why we saw such a reaction, an emotional reaction, an immediate reaction from the Republicans, because, quite frankly, I had the same reaction. And you could hear a pin drop at times when the president was speaking, and then when he would say these things, these misleading claims, a couple of things would happen. Number one is the Democrats would get all rah-rah. And I guess here's the question, and maybe this is a comment for the super text line. My question would be this. If you've got a Democrat up there, and it's obviously Joe Biden, you've got Joe Biden up there, and he is spewing lies and obfuscations and so forth, and the Democrats are saying rah-rah at the lies and accusations against the Republicans, what should the Republicans do? Should the Republicans, fight back? Should the Republicans say, no, you're out of order, Mr. President? Or should they sit there and take it? Is it something that we, the conservative people of America, is it to our betterment to be the better party, the bigger party, and just allow the president to say these things unchallenged? Or should we, and should our lawmakers, should our representatives stand up and say, no, you are lying. You are accusing us of things that we haven't done. Or you are taking credit for things that you didn't do. Or you are lying about what the American people are going through. And if that means that decorum goes out the window, then, friends, I guess that means that decorum goes out the window. Perhaps the president just starts writing letters as opposed to giving a highfalutin speech. Because when the highfalutin speech is full of lies and pandering and delusions from the president's state of delusion last night, the state of delusion speech last night, then what good is the speech anyway? I think inquiring minds want to know. 622 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here, live from our nation's capital. I want to tell you about my friends at DT McCall's. If you are even thinking about getting some new furniture and appliances this year, you owe it to yourself to check out DT McCall's. Now, they've got everything you need for every room in the house and outstanding customer service as well. A lot of these places, as you know, we warn you about this, they do a bait and switch. You buy one thing, the tag says one price, and then here come the upcharges. Well, not at DT McCall's, where the price on the tag is the price, period. And you know they have as many of their products made right here in the state of Tennessee as possible. So you keep it local. You support your friends and neighbors, and you get outstanding quality as well. That, my friends, is what DT McCall's is all about. 5 locations across Middle Tennessee. Be sure and tell them Dan Mandis told you to stop by. You can always, by the way, find them online at dtmccalls.com. Franklin, Cookeville, Carthage, Lafayette, and Lebanon.
Want to be the real hero this Valentine's? Genesis Diamonds makes it easy with the Total Romance Package. It's the jewelry, the flowers, the candy, and the dinner out. All the key ingredients for a memorable Valentine's celebration. Here's how it works. When you buy any piece of jewelry for just $99 or more, we'll give you some gourmet chocolates, a bouquet of flowers from Jenny's Flowers,
of the Union, moments of bipartisanship, free school breakfast and lunch, and the ever-increasing death toll in Turkey and Syria. These stories and more at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. Dan Mandis here live from our nation's capital. 628. I knew I'd do that eventually. 628 here in Tennessee, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Dan Mandis here again live from the studios of the Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C. And I think there's just so much to break down with the president and his speech last night. That will continue. We do have scheduled Senator Bill Hagerty. He's going to join us at 6:35 here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Looking forward to speaking to him. Also, Hans von Spakovsky is going to be joining us here in studio at the Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C. as we look ahead to 2024. Will the election in 2024 be free and fair? We'll talk to Hans von Spakovsky about that and a whole lot more straight ahead on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here from my friends at LT360. If you're tired of taking medications and you want preventative health care that will actually keep you healthy as opposed to treating you when you're sick, you've got to call my friends at LT360 today. Now, they're holding a free dinner discussion with our own Matt Murphy on February 22nd, and you can hear his story and begin your own chapter to a better and healthier you with LT360. Now, they helped me lose 65 plus pounds. I have been able to keep it off. Thank you to LT360 and my coach Scott Oatsfall and all of the weight loss pros. But this is a health and wellness program. It's not necessarily just about weight loss. Your journey can begin anew. February 26th with Matt Murphy, February 22nd with Matt Murphy. What I'd like you to do is call this phone number today and schedule your reservations and reserve your seats. 615-815-0390, 615-815-0390, LT360.com.
Information fueled, opinion driven. Super Talk 99.7.
6:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We are tracking the potential for some damaging winds today. Looking at traffic right now, still have that 65 northbound is closed there in Sumner County. That's between Millersville and Bethel Road for a vehicle fire. Closer to home in Rutherford County, you've got an accident 840 westbound right between Bill France and Jefferson Pike. And then in Antioch, Old Hickory Boulevard, just west of Pettis Road North. Another State of the Union address is in the books. Here's Elizabeth Schulze.
Despite jeers and outbursts from Republican lawmakers, there were a few moments of resounding bipartisan support inside the chamber during President Biden's State of the Union address. When the president said the U.S. will continue to stand with Ukraine, a standing ovation from both Republicans and Democrats.
And together, we did what America always does at our best. We led.
When he honored Brandon Say, who wrestled a gun away from the mass shooter in Monterey Park, lawmakers responded with loud applause and cheers.
Stay with Super Talk 99.7 WTN for continuing coverage. Dan Mandis live in our nation's capital with analysis and reaction. Coming up after traffic and weather, Tennessee U.S. Senator Bill Hagerty joins Dan. And right now in Tennessee, lawmakers are debating a bill to provide free school breakfast and lunches. 2 free meals every day for each student in every district. The state would reimburse each school district after federal dollars are made available to the National School Lunch Program. Channel 4 says the cost of this bill still isn't known, but so far it has bipartisan support. And the earthquake and aftershocks death toll in Turkey and northern Syria now exceeds 11,000. Lionel Moise says American search and rescue teams have arrived in the region to help.
This man digging through the rubble searching for his young daughter Noor, buried in debris. The rescuer saying, "Your father is here. Don't be scared. Noor, please look at me here. Talk to your father." Noor looking up and seeing her dad. She was finally freed after nearly 24 hours. For countless other families, immense grief.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. 6:32, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk. Welcome to 2023. A great deal from my buddy, Dr. Kevin Mitchell and the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Your road to a pain-free 2023 begins with an offer for half off. That is half off all non-surgical spinal decompression treatments. Half off when you mention my name. Let me give the phone number. Call him today. Dr. Kevin Mitchell. Mention my name. 615-246-5009. Those spinal decompression machines are the key to relieving your chronic back and neck pain, friends. They worked for me. They're going to work for you as well. And with half off. It's a great deal. 615-246-5009. Get rid of your back pain at half the cost with the Wellness Institute of Nashville. That phone number one more time, 615-246-5009. The website, painisbad.com.
Mattress Firm's President's Day sale is here. Shop and save up to $500 on Tempur-Pedic adjustable mattress sets. Plus, get a $300 instant gift good towards sleep accessories. Find your dream bed at Mattress Firm. Then cozy up on your new bed because there's nothing better than staying in.
One of the biggest fears of investors in today's market is running out of money halfway through retirement. This is a common concern and a serious possibility with recent inflation and tax hikes. If you have a solid income plan in place, you do not have to worry about running out of retirement money. This is why Beacon Capital Management is offering you a free retirement income analysis. This will let you know if you're on track or if you have some critical gaps in your plan. They'll get some information from you, evaluate your situation, and go over the results all for free. If you have saved at least $250,000 for retirement, call Beacon now for your free retirement income analysis. Call 615-488-9303. That's 488-9303. Tell them Johnny B sent you.
Investment advisory services offered through Beacon Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Beacon Capital Management, LLC is not affiliated with Brown & McGuire CPAs, LLC, or Knight Legal. Insurance products and services are offered through Beacon Insurance and Health, LLC. Beacon Insurance, an affiliate of Beacon Capital.
.65 north between Millersville and Bethel Road shut down around that vehicle fire situation from overnight. 65 south into Trinity, seeing a little bit of volume, and the crowd's starting to pick up a little bit here at Sam Ridley and 24. And a few more cars showing up here at 40 West getting into the South Loop. I'm Jack Womack. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.636 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. Dan Mandis broadcasting live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., from the studios of the Heritage Foundation. And so glad to be able to sit through the State of the Union. Listen very closely and attentively, I did, so you didn't have to. I want to welcome on into the program Senator Bill Hagerty. Senator, thank you very much for joining us here on Nashville's Morning News. So much to say about the president's speech last night, but let's just get your just first blush. What did you think of his speech?
It was very difficult to sit there, Dan, and it was wonderful to have you in the gallery there too with us last night.
Yes,
I must say. But it was difficult to sit there and choke down the falsehoods that Joe Biden spewed out from the podium there. You've got a person that is so detached from reality. He spent more time talking about resort fees. Most Tennesseans I know aren't going to resorts right now in this economy, but he spent more time talking about resort fees and how he's going to do away with hidden resort fees, whatever that is, than he did talking about the CCP or our border. He's just not connected with the issues that are facing Tennesseans, that are facing Americans.
Well, one of the things, and we're going to get into some specific issues, but I did pose this question to the audience. There's some media out there, and certainly on social media, that are saying that the Republicans heckled the president a bit too much last night. Of course, the part of the speech where the president was talking about fentanyl, and then someone, I don't know who it was, but somebody on the Republican side yelled, "It's your fault," and something about you're not confronting China because the ingredients, as you know, Senator, come from China. And so there's a couple of instances like that. And when the president also accused the Republicans of wanting to cancel Social Security, which everybody knows. Everybody in that room, including the president, knows that that is a blatant falsehood. And so my question is, when you have people in the media who are saying, oh, the Republicans, they're lacking in decorum, they were heckling the president too much, they were verbally abusive to the president, what do you say to that? Because, I'm sitting right there up in the gallery, and I know that the president's lying, and it's frustrating. I don't know what else to do other than the Republicans defending themselves. What say you?
Well, I was sitting right there. I heard the exact same thing that you did, and it was such a blatant falsehood to stand there and lie before the American public on national television. You could see Kevin McCarthy's face. I wasn't sitting far from him at all out front. And it's appalling that Joe Biden would continue to perpetrate these lies, even more so, though, that the media, the mainstream media, certainly not yourself, Dan, but the mainstream media will take those lies and run with them, and Biden knows it. If you think about decorum, why don't we go back and look at how this media and the Democrat Party treated President Trump? Whether it's lying about Russiagate, Adam Schiff just lying constantly on the media and them carrying that ball forward. There's a double standard here. And I think it's very pathetic when you've got a media that's willing to play the game one way when their favorite party is in charge, and then come back and play it completely differently when the Republicans are here.
Do you think, and then I promise I'm going to get into actual issues, but do you think that is there a point to continue to do the State of the Union the way that we currently do it? I know this has been a discussion before, but I'm sitting up in the gallery, and I'm looking at the Democrats to my left and the Republicans to my right, and the Democrats are rah-rahing, just fist bumping in the whole thing, while Biden is saying these lies and obfuscations. And, the Republicans are now being excoriated for, as I would say, fighting back. And I guess at this point, if there really is no truth to what the president will say up there, should we just start writing letters and be done with it?
Well, that wouldn't be a bad idea, because this has just evolved into some sort of propaganda opportunity under Joe Biden.
Yes, what a great way to put it, Senator. It was absolutely propaganda last night.
But you'll see, the Democrats going to run with this as if it were fact. And again, I'm coming back to how detached this was. The American public, if you poll them, Democrats don't want him to run again. Certainly, the majority of Americans don't want him to run again, because we are all worse off than we were 2 years ago. That simple question alone should be enough. And Joe Biden had the opportunity to come in front of the American public last night to acknowledge the serious shortcomings, to acknowledge the pain, 13.5% inflation since he took office, to acknowledge the pain of those families who have lost children to fentanyl overdoses that have been coming across our southern border, that he totally collapsed. He could have acknowledged these problems and come there ready to roll his sleeves up and get to work. But instead, he wanted to come there and be accusatory. He wanted to accuse, as you said, Republicans of wanting to do away with Medicare, Social Security. He wanted to come there and create yet another rift in America. This is what he's trying to do, divide us, to separate us, and make our nation weaker in the process.
All right, let's get into some actual issues with which the president addressed last night. So he talked about how illegal immigration was going down, and he talked about fentanyl and some of the other challenges that we see coming across our southern border. Do you see, as the president is clearly trying to spin that he's doing a good job on the border? Everyone knows that he's not. Do you see anything getting done with the border in the next couple of years?
This was just another massive lie. Illegal immigration into the United States across that southern border is ramping up every month. All he's doing is trying to redefine what's legal and not legal. He's just trying to send them to a different port of entry with their appointments on their iPhones. That's now legal entry. These people are running into our country illegally. They're not going through the process. Think about all the hardworking men and women that have actually followed the rules and followed the process and immigrated here properly. How do they feel when they see this just mass chaos at the border? And again, back to fentanyl, back to the national security crisis. Over 160 different nationalities have been apprehended at that southern border since Joe Biden took office. It's just a massive disgrace. And here he is trying to say that his numbers have improved. He claimed the same with the economy. Have you tried to buy eggs in Nashville lately, Dan? It's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable that he would stand there and spin that the way that he has and try to do a victory lap when America knows that it's just a complete falsehood.
One of the things I thought was interesting is, and I spoke about this quite a bit yesterday, you just talked about the phrase that Ronald Reagan used many years ago, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Are you better off now than you were 2 years ago? Yesterday, I had a fantastic segment that I really enjoyed because I'm not enjoying other people's suffering, but because people were telling me their stories about how they are clearly not better off. And I had a 22-year-old college student from Murfreesboro, and I had a 71-year-old retiree, and all ages in between, and from all walks of life and from various parts of the country here in Middle Tennessee. And no matter their lot in life, no matter their age, everyone is suffering, quite frankly, the same way. Yet the president had the audacity to say the state of our union is strong. I haven't looked at a lot of the media this morning, but I thought that Donald Trump, and I'm going to play this coming up here in the next hour or so, but Donald Trump, I thought, had a very good rebuttal, as did Sarah Huckabee Sanders. What is next for the Republicans for the next couple of years?
Well, we're actually having a full-day meeting today off-site to go through just that. But Republicans have to stand for strength, for national security, to get our economy back in line, and to bring this massive deficit down. They talk about any effort that we might undertake to try to address the deficit as somehow blowing up the economy. No, the Democrats are blowing up the economy with this massive spending that they're undertaking, and the debt crisis that we're going to face is when the capital markets finally turn around and say no more. So we've got to start dealing with this responsibility. With this responsibility now, we need to step up and do it. Republicans are trying to be responsible, and Democrats again are gaslighting the world and saying the exact opposite. So we've got to get our act together as Republicans as we push back against this Democrat spending spree. We've got to do everything we can to call out and hold the Democrats responsible for what's happening at that southern border. Dan, I've gone to the Senate floor 3 times with my Stop Fentanyl Border Crossings Act to strengthen Title 42, to focus on the biggest problem that's killing Americans between the ages of 18 and 45, and that is drug overdoses. The Democrats have come down and blocked it all 3 times. They want to see this border destroyed. We're going to continue to call it out, continue to push back. And now that we have oversight in the House of Representatives, I hope we can begin to get to the bottom of some of the massive misuse that these administration officials have done with their various departments and agencies here.
Senator Bill Hagerty joining us. Senator, I've got to take a quick break for traffic, but coming up, I'm going to play for you, and I'm going to get your reaction with this one final question. Your reaction to the president when he said that he was standing up to China as they were threatening our sovereignty. Details straight ahead. 6:46, time to check the roads from the Paul Winkler Investment WTN Traffic Center. Thank you, Jack. Very much appreciated. Today, going to get some rain, high around 65 right now, 54 degrees at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Senator Bill Hagerty joining us. And I'm going to play for you, Senator, this piece of audio. And I do believe this may be the most egregious thing the president said last night in a speech full of egregious statements. But this is what he said regarding China.
As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did.
I mean, Senator, he allowed that balloon to fly through Alaska, over our missile silos in Montana. It was a spectacle all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. And I don't know where the president gets off saying that he stood up to China in his big boy pants voice when clearly he didn't.
No, it's just amazing, and it's another embarrassment. And that stain falls on Joe Biden directly. He's the commander-in-chief. And what he's tried to do is obfuscate this as well. He allowed that balloon to fly over the entire country. Had we not had a reporter in Montana photograph it and leak it out, push it out to the American public, I think that Secretary Blinken would have continued on his trip to China. They would have gone back looking yet again for another photo op of our Secretary of State standing next to Xi Jinping. This is an administration that would place the photo op over the best interest of America. Think about what Joe Biden did in Afghanistan. He wanted to call himself the president that brought our troops home on the 20th anniversary of 9/11. He caused the deaths of 13 service members, one of them from Tennessee, Ryan Knauss. I had to call Ryan's parents. I mean, Joe Biden is just not fit for this job. When you think about somebody that is just managing by press release and standing there in front of the American public and trying to claim that he stood up to China when China literally challenged us. That was a test. That was a test of our resolve, and Joe Biden failed that test miserably.
Senator Bill Hagerty, thank you very much for joining us here on Nashville's Morning News. I know it's early for both of us. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be sure to look forward to speaking to you again soon. It is 6:50 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know, what's interesting is that I haven't even skimmed the surface of some of these audio bites that I have. Coming up, I'm going to try to find time to play this audio bite of the president last night talking about the talk. And this is the talk where he speaks of the conversations that black and brown parents, I'm using his words, have to have with their children about the police. All that and a whole lot more straight ahead. It's Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Dan Mandis for Paul Winkler Incorporated. Now, Paul Winkler changed my financial life by teaching me the right way to manage my retirement. To be honest, I looked at a few different firms and decided to work with Paul and his team. Now, one reason why is because Paul Winkler voluntarily holds himself to the highest standards of fiduciary duty. Now, that means that the investment regulators require that I tell you that I am paid every time this commercial airs, and that's incentive to say nice things. Well, that's fair enough, but here's the deal. I'm a client of Paul Winkler myself, and I wouldn't have chosen them if I didn't believe in what they do and how they work. Now, I like that their investing philosophy is evidence-based and not someone's opinion of the day. I wanted them to focus on balancing risk and helping me figure out what I needed in savings and help me make the decisions that would be in my best interest. I also didn't want to work with a firm that was paid on commission. Paul has 10 offices across Middle Tennessee, no doubt one near you. Check them out today at 615-851-1950. As always, tell him Dan Mandis told you to reach out. You can also find him online at paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone consultation. That's paulwinkler.com.
Another State of the Union address in the books. It was President Biden's first before a divided Congress. We got some highlights from that and reaction. Right now in Tennessee, a bill to limit cities to only 20 members on city councils keeps advancing. A bill to ban transgender surgery for boys who want to be girls or think they are girls, and vice versa, continues to advance. These stories and more at 7 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you very much, Ken. 6:55, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Going through some of the highlights or lowlights of the President's State of Delusion speech last night. This one I've been wanting to play for you for a couple of hours now, to be perfectly honest. Johnny, programming note, we're going to blow out Sanjay Gupta. You're welcome. This is the President last night.
Have never had to have the talk. Most of us in here have never had to have the talk.
Mm-hmm.
The talk.
The talk.
That brown and black parents have had to have with their children.
Okay.
Bo, Hunter, Ashley, my children. I never had to have the talk with them.
You know, when he said that, the first thing that came into my head was, you know, with all the legal problems that Bo has or that Hunter has, you probably should have had that talk with Hunter because clearly he needed it.
I never had to tell them if a police officer pulls you over, turn your interior lights on right away. Don't reach for your license. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Imagine having to worry like that every single time your kid got in a car.
Now, I don't know about you, but my father and mother and myself, we're all white. These are conversations that parents should be having with their kids, period. You know, Biden is making this seem like this is such a tragedy that parents have to have these conversations with their kids, quote unquote, black and brown parents have to have these conversations with their kids. All parents should be telling their kids how to deal with authority, period. Honestly, we'd see a lot less death and destruction in America if that was the case. And so Biden, again, saying, well, I never had to have that talk with Hunter. Well, Joe, you know what? You probably should have. Super Talk 99.7, WTN, Dan Mandis live from our nation's capital from the studios of the Heritage Foundation. Got a lot more straight ahead on Super Talk 99.7.
Seven o'clock on the dot. this Wednesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We are tracking the potential for damaging winds, and it won't even take storms to produce them. We also have some traffic issues to tell you about. Right now, the big one is going to be north of Nashville. 65 northbound is closed due to a vehicle fire there at Millersville. It stopped traffic from Long Hollow Pike, backed up all the way to Long Hollow Pike because of that. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Another State of the Union address is in the books. Here's Mary Bruce.
His first State of the Union address before a divided Congress started with a hand extended across the aisle.
Speaker, I don't want to ruin your reputation, but I look forward to working with you.
But there were plenty of contentious moments, outbursts over the border, fighting the fentanyl crisis, and especially when it came to the debate over lifting the debt ceiling.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority.
But the president seizing the moment to turn the tables on Republicans, trying to get them to commit.
Yeah, well, Tennessee U.S. Senator Bill Hagerty tells WTN's Nashville's Morning News about the president's claim there.
A blatant falsehood. To stand there and lie before the American public on national television. You could see Kevin McCarthy's face. I wasn't sitting far from him at all out front. And it's appalling that Joe Biden would continue to perpetrate these lies.
Stay with Super Talk 99.7 WTN for continuing coverage. Dan Mandis is live in our nation's capital with analysis and reaction. Right now in Tennessee, the House Local Government Committee has passed that bill that limits cities to 20 members on city councils, significantly impacting Nashville, which has 40. Channel 4 says Democrats sounded off.
This is a targeted attempt to usurp and undermine the will of the people and the voters of Davidson County. This action has been taken against the will of the voters and against the will of our elected officials.
Supporters of the bill say no, it's to rein in excessive government growth. And a bill to ban transgender surgery for boys who want to be girls or think they are girls, and vice versa, continues to advance toward passage in the legislature. Passed the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday on a party line vote of 7-2. Elsewhere in the state capitol, the author of a free school lunch and breakfast bill tells Channel 4 it has bipartisan support.
Nobody's paid more in an inflated economy on taxes than multi-person households. So this is an opportunity just to kind of identify how do we get some resources back to them.
Calhoun Republican State Senator Adam Lowe says it would mean 2 free meals every day for every student in every district. The state would reimburse school districts once federal dollars are made available to the National School Lunch Program. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Stock futures down before the opening bell on Wall Street. Dow off 98, S&P 13, NASDAQ 18. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
We talk news. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
707 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you. Dan here along with Ken and Johnny B. I am in our nation's capital, broadcasting live from the studios of the Heritage Foundation. Johnny and Ken, of course, back at the studio in Nashville. I will be back in studio tomorrow. I've really enjoyed my time in Washington, D.C., and I get to interview live and in person one of my all-time favorite guests, Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation. Good morning to you, Hans.
Good morning, Dan. It's really nice to be in studio with you instead of on the long other end of a telephone call.
It is very strange, but here's the thing. We have something very much in common this morning. One, we've needed a lot of coffee. And number two is we're both just stupefied by some of the things that the president said last night. By the way, of course, if people don't know, Hans von Spakovsky, senior legal fellow here at the Heritage Foundation. The president said a number of different falsehoods. We've been chronicling them all morning long. But this was one that really got a lot of reaction from the Republicans. It's when the president said that the Republicans are trying to kill Social Security.
What those plans are. Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you, I enjoy conversion. You know, it means if Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you. Look, folks, the idea is,
and you heard. I think that was Lauren Boebert that specifically called the president a liar. This is also something that is very much of a visual because you have the Republicans and they're gesturing as they're yelling and they're angry. And first of all, I mean, I don't want to lead the witness, but Biden is talking about Florida's Rick Scott, who came out with a proposal, and I forget what exactly he called it. But he didn't say that he wanted to defund or sunset Social Security. Basically, what he wants to do, and Scott Desjarlais has talked about this before, the congressman, where they're trying to protect Social Security.
Yeah, you know, he told so many lies last night. The president did. That if I'd been doing the old drinking game, if I'd been drinking a shot of good Tennessee whiskey like some Jack Daniels every time he told a lie, I would have been comatose by the end of the evening. And I actually thought I saw his nose, Biden's nose, starting to grow as he was saying that. There is not a single proposal that I'm aware of to end either one of those federal programs. Yeah, there are proposals to shore it up. Because with the kind of deficit spending we're doing, all you have to do is go to the Social Security Administration itself, and they talk about how they're going to run out of funding for the program. So, yeah, they've got to reform it to fix that so it'll stay in place. But it was just one lie after another last night, and some of the stuff was really, really bad in the way he was trying to not unify the country. He was trying to divide us on the basis of money and race and every other factor you can think of.
So one of the things that I thought was interesting is there was a couple of times in the speech where he said, Republicans and Democrats have to work together. But in the same breath, he's saying all of these provable lies. And so I guess my question is, outside of our conservative bubble, Hans von Spakovsky, you think people are buying this crap?
No, I mean, look, the latest polling shows that even a majority of Democrats don't want him running again. And a majority of people in this country think we are on the wrong path. And all they have to do is look at how they're losing income, When they go to the grocery store, they're paying outrageous prices because of inflation, the worst in 40 years. He is damaging this country to an extent I haven't seen. By the way, what's happened to a lot of retirement investments of Americans, middle class and all over, right? They've lost huge amounts of money because of the drop in stock prices. Yet, what was one of the things he proposed last night? A new federal tax on unrealized capital gain. That means if your stock goes up at the end of the year, even if you haven't sold it, you haven't done anything, you'd have to pay a tax on it.
Yep.
Which means if it then goes down, you've paid tax on money you never even got from your stock. That is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever seen.
Well, one of the things, and just to go along with what you're talking about, the U.S. stock market lost a fifth of its value.
Right.
People are blowing through their savings. Their 401ks are declining as well. We've seen the highest inflation rate in 40 years, yet, and of course, we all know about the price of gas. So somehow the president still had the gumption to say that the state of our union is strong. When we talk about the polling that President Biden is doing so poorly, do you think last night did anything to help that?
No. In fact, looking at him last night, I mean, he looked like one of those Disney automatums they have right down in Florida. I'm sure women were looking at him going, man, who's the surgeon does his Botox? He's over 80, but he was just up there reading the teleprompters and coming out with one lie after another. I wonder sometimes, does he really not know what's actually going on in the country? Is he so sheltered by his age that they're not telling him what's going on? Or does he actually know all this and he's just telling one lie after another because he's been in Washington so long he's learned how to do that?
Well, you know that he lies about his past. You know that he's said that he was involved in the civil rights marches and the fire in his kitchen that almost killed firefighters. I mean, he almost got arrested trying to meet up with Nelson Mandela. I mean, all of these things that the president has said over the years. I mean, his first run at the presidency was died because of plagiarism. So, I mean, this is a president that literally has made a career out of lying, and so that continues today. But, Hans, you bring up a great point, which is something that I have actually debated with myself and with the audience about whether or not he actually knows the polling numbers, whether he actually thinks the border is closed, whether he actually thinks that the economy is doing really well. And if not, is he just I don't know if I've ever seen a president, and this is disheartening to say, I don't know if I've ever seen, Hans, a president who has lied so blatantly to the American people. Like, usually if it was, I don't know, Obama or some of these other folks, or even, Donald Trump, you could look at some of the things that they would say, and you could see how they were twisting the analysis. They were using the numbers to their advantage. They were, you're into analytics and all that kind of stuff. I am too. You can make data say anything you want, and you can find people to say what the data, how you want the data to read. So, but with Biden, it's just, these are just blatant, provable lies.
No, they are, and he needs to get called on them, and his press spokesman needs to get called on them. The White House press corps needs to start doing that, because he does it all the time. And the country is in terrible condition compared to when he first got into office, and things don't seem to be improving. Look, another just huge, unbelievable lie he was telling last night was about, he was blaming the oil and gas industry for high prices and big profits. He has done everything he can since he came into office to restrict the production of oil and gas in this country.
Yep.
That's why we have such high prices. Everything from shutting down pipelines to not allowing any new leases and drilling. And then he wonders why none of the big companies are investing in more refineries and everything else. Why would they, when he's doing everything he can to destroy the oil and gas industry? By the way, the same way he and Obama did everything they could to try to destroy the coal industry.
Yep, that's exactly right. 7:16 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Very quickly, we're going to resume our conversation with Hans von Spakovsky. We've got to check the traffic real quick from the Paul Winkler Investment WTN Traffic Center. Think of Jack. Rain today, a high of 65, right now 54 degrees. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here, live from the studios of the Heritage Foundation in our nation's capital. Hans von Spakovsky is joining us. And Hans, a couple of other just very quick points as we wrap this up. I think one of the most blatant lies that the president told was, and I played the audio a few minutes ago for Senator Bill Hagerty, was when the president said that he stood up to China to protect our sovereignty. And all the Democrats applauded. Now, this is a president that allowed a purported spy balloon over Alaska, our missile silos in Montana. It became a spectacle all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. Only then did they shoot it down. And I think, at least for me, I don't see that this is a president that protected our sovereignty from China, doesn't protect our sovereignty on the southern border.
Oh, look, that is absolutely right. I mean, to take the latter first, we are having the worst crisis on the southern border we've ever had. We are having illegal aliens come across in numbers we've never seen in all the time we've been keeping records. That's doing everything from increasing the profits and power of the Mexican drug cartels, who are the smugglers who are doing this, to causing huge problems in the communities all over the country where these folks are being sent by the administration, to the worst fentanyl, drug abuse, and death problem we've had because it's all coming in through Mexico. And with China, they wait to shoot down this balloon until it's traveled all the way across the United States, collected all its data, transmitted it to China, and then they shoot it down.
Well,
I mean, that is just idiotic.
And here's the other thing is, just to add to that, is they spent quite a bit of time looking for the wreckage of the balloon. Why wouldn't they, knowing they were going to shoot it down, have boats and wreckage teams there ready to grab it out of the water instead of, waiting till it floats all the way down to the bottom? It just seems like this whole thing could have been handled better, because I would like to see us reverse engineer this thing and find out what we can glean from this information, from this technology that we've gotten from China. So clearly you don't believe that it's a weather balloon.
No, not at all. And, they kept saying, well, we can't shoot it down over the continental U.S. because it might cause damage. Well, why didn't they shoot it down over the Aleutian Islands?
Yes.
When it was first detected. Yep. And for anybody who thinks we can't do that, I haven't heard a lot of mention, but, we've been installing our anti-ballistic missile system in Alaska to stop missiles from places like North Korea. So we have extensive radar installations there to detect it. So we clearly knew it was coming, and they didn't take care of it then.
I think it would have been, because everybody keeps talking about how this was a message from Xi Jinping, which I believe that it was, heading into those very important meetings with the Secretary of State. I believe that a great message back would have been to shoot that thing down one way or another with even a missile if we wanted to. It might be overkill, but that would be quite the message to send back to Xi Jinping. And so now I guess the question is, it feels like we're in a Cold War, whatever it is you want to call it, with China. Who's winning that battle between us and China right now?
Well, right now I think China is. And look, this may turn into a hot war because they seem to be building up to attack Taiwan.
Yep. And that's because of the weakness of Joe Biden, the failed pullout of Afghanistan, the failure in the battle between Russia and Ukraine, because it is my contention that the president was very weak with the sanctions leading into the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And so if the president was stronger with those sanctions, and if the president really meant business, then Vladimir Putin would have said, well, wait a minute, maybe I'm not going to do this right now. But it took Biden forever to warm up those sanctions to the point where Vladimir Putin himself really felt those sanctions. And so I think that is also part of the failure of the Biden administration. You get the last word.
Well, I'm just saying I'm just glad to see you up here, and I miss Nashville. You know, I spent 3 years there going to school, although I have to tell you, when I was there recently, I almost didn't recognize the downtown area because of the way
there's new
it has been
buildings
developed.
every few months. A new building is going up.
Right.
Well, you know what? We still have that whiskey. We still have that hot chicken. And you're welcome back anytime.
Happy to come back.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Hans von Spakovsky here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis from our nation's capital. I want to tell you about my friends at Mark Spain Real Estate. Sell your home with a guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate. You will save time and you will make the most money. Now, you know that Mark Spain Real Estate has been helping homeowners sell their homes for nearly 30 years. Over 50,000 satisfied clients have trusted them to sell their homes when starting their next phase in life. Now, the Wall Street Journal and Real Trends both ranked Mark Spain Real Estate as the #1 real estate team in America for the 5th year in a row. This is a really important fact to keep mentioning from Mark Spain Real Estate. Their results are based on the guaranteed offer. Find out more about the guaranteed offer by calling this number, 855-299-SOLD, 855-299-SOLD. They were also ranked on the Inc. 5000 list of the fastest growing companies in the U.S. for now the 7th year in a row. 855-299-SOLD. You can find them online. It's markspain.com, and start packing.
reaction to President Biden's first State of the Union address before a divided Congress. Right now in Tennessee, a bill limiting city councils to just 20 members continues to advance. And it's not getting better in the earthquake and aftershocks in southern Turkey and Syria. The death toll continues to grow. There are some bright spots, though, in the search and rescue efforts. We'll let you hear one of them coming up at 7:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. Coming up at 7:35, we've got Congressman Scott Desjarlais. We'll be joined by the congressman. He'll talk about his reaction to the president's speech last night. Friends, if you need new windows, you've got to listen to me for the next 60 seconds because I'm going to tell you about a great offer from my friends at Window Nation. They've got the coolest deal ever for keeping you warm. You pay $0 down, make 0 payments, and get 0% financing for 24 months. That is 2 years of no interest. Plus, you get 2 free windows with every 2 that you buy, with no limit. That's a lot of windows. Take advantage of Window Nation's deep discounts, all the while reinvesting in your biggest asset. That, of course, is your home. Not to mention the energy savings for years to come. So call them today. Be sure and tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out to get that special deal. 866-90-NATION. 866-90-NATION. You can find them online at windownation.com. And remember that amazing offer when you call 866-90-NATION. Pay nothing for 24 months. Plus, buy 2 windows and get 2 free on any style window from Window Nation. And there is no limit. So you can save thousands on your new windows and your energy bills, all the while upgrading the look and feel of your home. Call them today, Window Nation. Again, tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. 866-90-NATION, windownation.com.
Information fueled, opinion driven. Super Talk 99.7.
It is 7:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we are tracking the potential for some severe weather here in Middle Tennessee. Damaging winds with or without any storms actually reaching severe limits. Got some traffic problems to tell you about, too. Brand new crash in Williamson County. Looks like the HOV lane is blocked 65 northbound right before Concord Road. Then north of Nashville in Sumner County, 65 northbound still closed there between Millersville, Springfield Highway 31 West, and Bethel Road. It is backed up all the way to Long Hollow Pike. Here's one of President Biden's lines from his State of the Union address.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority.
Republicans jumped to their feet. Some shouted no, and who?
I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being...
Some Republicans, including Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, shouted liar.
Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you, I enjoy conversion.
The full chamber stood when the president said cuts to Medicare and Social Security should be off the table. Republican Senator Rick Scott's economic plan would require all federal legislation be renewed or end every 5 years, including Social Security.
Well, that plan is more than a year old, and here is Tennessee U.S. Senator Bill Hagerty's reaction.
The mainstream media will take those lies and run with them, and Biden knows it.
And earlier this month, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said when it comes to negotiations over raising the debt ceiling, cuts to Medicare and Social Security are off the table. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell saying the same. Right now in Tennessee, a bill that limits city councils to 20 members continues to advance in the legislature. It passed the House Local Government Committee yesterday. Next goes to the House Finance Ways and Means Committee. If passed, Nashville would see the Metro Council reduced to 20 because right now they have 40. And the death toll from the earthquake and aftershocks in southern Turkey growing to more than 11,000, including in northern Syria. Lionel Moise says American search and rescue teams have arrived in the region.
More than 70 countries and 14 international organizations have now offered aid to Turkey, but the concern is growing that Syria, ravaged by years of civil war, is getting far less help, due in part to economic sanctions and political conflict. An estimated 23 million people have been affected by Monday's earthquake.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you very much, Ken. 7:33, Nashville's Morning News. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Listen, whether it's really hot or really cold, you need to be able to depend on your HVAC unit. Now, you need to maintain it so that you can depend on it. Now, I am a member of the Beehive Club with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. That means that if my HVAC breaks down, I can depend on Busy Bee because I get front of the line service plus 10% off of all repairs, no overtime or holiday charges, 3 annual tune-ups a year, and that's important, including plumbing and so much more. So many benefits. They're adding more all the time at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. So check them out online. It's busybeehvac.com. These folks are awesome. I've been a Beehive member for a long time. 615-775-7833. When you call them, tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. Save money and be a smart homeowner by maintaining your HVAC the right way, the Busy Bee way. 615-775-7833.
It's a new year, and Edge Peptide Therapy is helping you get spring break ready. Edge Peptide Therapy is offering their Vitality Edge program, a cutting-edge 90-day complete transformational program at a New Year's discount. This program includes everything from your consultation, blood work, all supplements, one-on-one coaching with the Edge Vitality team, and more. In fact, they're so confident that you will lose weight with their Vitality Edge program, they're offering a money-back guarantee. Go to edgepeptide.com today to learn more. That's edgepeptide.com.
So is this the year you finally get that closet, guest room, media center, pantry, or laundry room super organized? It's Kurt Schusterman, owner of California Closets Nashville. Look, we know you have lots of options, but when reliability matters, when quality matters, when design matters, California Closets Nashville is really your best option. Contact us for a free in-home design consultation and check us out at our Cool Springs or Nashville showrooms or at CaliforniaClosets.com.
7:38, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, breaking down from a whole bunch of different angles. The president's State of Delusion speech last night. Congressman Scott Desjarlais joining us this morning on the Newsmaker Hotline. And Congressman, I want to start out with this audio bite.
Name me a world leader who changed places with Xi Jinping. Name me one. Name me one.
Doctor, can we talk about the president's anger issues? Because I don't know about you, but last night when he just, he went get off my lawn on everybody, and it kind of came out of nowhere. And of course, he's talking about how he's standing up to President Xi Jinping in China. That was part of that whole thing. But last night's speech, it was whispering. It was yelling. It was a lot of the president having a hard time, getting the words out. And the one thing that was incredibly consistent was all the lies. So just give me your first blush. What did you think of the speech?
Yeah, it's funny. We talked about this after it was over last night, and I think we both said we were going to have to sleep on this, digest it, and come up with some explanation for what we had just witnessed. And I think it was a huge swing and a miss, because here's a president. It's painfully obvious to Americans that inflation isn't coming down. Every time they go to the grocery store, every time they go to the gas pump, they're feeling this. Every time they turn on the TV, they see the border being flooded with illegal immigrants. They hear in the news about the fentanyl deaths. They see what China just did to us. And, why not just try something different and try being honest and open? And if I'm the president and I'm really thinking about running for re-election, why not pivot like Bill Clinton did? You have a divided House. You have Republicans in the House, Democrats in the Senate. You're going to have to work together to get something done. You can't operate from the extremes. And he came from the extreme left last night, and it totally fell flat, and it left us feeling empty. And I'm not sure that the Democrats felt good about it. You were sitting there when Kamala Harris walked in. You could have damn near heard a pin drop.
Yes.
It was a tepid response at best, and we were sitting there thinking, did the vice president just walk in? Not even the Democrats cheered for her. So, just acknowledge what is obvious and don't try to sugarcoat it. Most Americans aren't stupid, and most don't trust what they hear in the media. He relies on the liberal media to spin the lies that he put out there. But what if he actually said, let's work together? The COVID pandemic created all kinds of unprecedented problems, but we're clawing our way back. We're recovering. The job numbers are coming up. The debt is too high. Let's work together. Let's figure out, what's driving this debt and how we can make America strong together. It would be such a novel approach, but I honestly think it would work, because if we're going to accomplish anything, if he has a chance at a second term, which I hope to hell doesn't happen, but that being said, the only way it's going to happen is if we work together. You can't say I'm going to build electric car charging stations all across the country and get rid of petroleum when you have pictures of your gas-guzzling muscle car, Corvette, in your garage. So it's just so disconnected and out of touch. And, yes, he was yelling. He was doing the creepy whisper. And he did get a kind of a visceral response, more than I've ever seen from the Republican side.
And what was interesting was, on the one hand, there were times within the speech where he did say, Democrats and Republicans have to work together, but then he was castigating and demonizing the Republicans and telling flat out lies about the Republicans as well. So I don't really believe for a moment that Joe Biden really wants to try to work with the Republicans. I know that there's a lot of people that have been out there in the mainstream media that have said that the president does want to reach out across the aisle. But, words are really meaningless when you look at what he did last night, the actions of giving the State of the Union, where he accused the Republicans of wanting to destroy Social Security and, some of the other things that he said. And let's face it, and I mentioned this before when I was speaking to Senator Bill Hagerty, it seems like all decorum within the State of the Union is really gone now. This is one moment from last night where the Republicans, frankly, fought back against the president. The conversation was fentanyl.
Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year. You got it.
I mean, Congressman, you were right there. You heard, I don't know who it was, somebody yelling that it's your fault to the president. And I think part of what's going on is the frustrations of the Republicans boiling over because the president has the audacity to say, well, we've got a big problem with fentanyl coming across our border. Well, it is your open border, Mr. President, and you refuse to stand up to China because a lot of those ingredients are coming from China into Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. The guy who said that, I didn't see who it was, but he was like literally one row behind me and a few down. And I remember sitting next to a congressman from Colorado and saying, the guy's not wrong. That's not proper decorum to yell that out. Kind of like when Joe Wilson yelled out, "You lie" to Obama when he was lying. Well, that could have been yelled out about 50 times last night. And, it's the nature of the president's speech that evoked that reaction. And I think, none bigger probably than the Social Security lie, which, if you've got a financial plan for your future and the market tanks or something happens and the money isn't going to be there, your financial advisor says, hey, in 10, 15 years, you're going to be in trouble if we don't change some things. That's what the responsible reaction would be, or the responsible solution was to look at it and see how do we fix that. So Republicans, Democrats, everyone knows that Social Security will be insolvent if we don't change the way we're doing things. So suggesting that doesn't mean you're going to take anything away from seniors, but that's exactly what Biden tried to stand up there at his bully pulpit and say. And I was part of the boos and jeers on that one because it's a flat-out lie. We're trying to preserve and protect it. And, he deserved what he got last night. I'd rather have to be able to listen to a speech. Granted, it's coming from a Democratic president. It's not going to be all the things I like. But I'd like to think that there's hope there. He gave me no hope last night that things are going to get any better, and that's a real shame for everybody.
746, Nashville's Morning News. Congressman Scott Desjarlais joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline. Congressman, a couple more questions for you straight ahead, though. Got to check the roads very quickly from the Paul Winkler Investment WTN Traffic Center. Thank you very much. Today, rain is expected and a high, I think. Johnny, did you just say the high of around 60? Is that what you said it was? 65, a high of 65 today here at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Sorry, folks, I'm very disconnected from Tennessee today because I am in Washington, D.C., broadcasting from our nation's capital. Had the, privilege, honor, I guess, of going to the State of the Union. Congressman, I have mixed reactions actually to last night's State of the Union. I was really glad that I was invited there as your guest. Thank you very much. I'm really appreciative that I got to do it. But the experience was one, on the one hand, it was amazing and humbling to see. But on the other hand, Congressman, it was infuriating. We're talking about this accusation the president made that the Republicans want to kill Social Security.
Those plans are. Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority.
The thing that's so frustrating, Congressman, and you can hear the reaction.
Anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. Of the proposal.
Do you think, Congressman, that anybody is going to call out the president? The problem is there's so many lies and obfuscations that he told last night. I don't know which one is the worst example, but that was certainly one. And based on the response that I heard last night, definitely the Republicans were angry at that one. And by the way, there's one lawmaker, Rick Scott, who said we have to take a look at Social Security to keep it solvent.
Yeah, and that was my point in the last segment. It's irresponsible not to. I mean, are you really just going to look away and in 10, 15 years tell people, sorry, we mismanaged this, you're on your own? And so that's something. It's been done before. Retirement age was 65. Now went to 66, 67 for some. They're doing things. They're not taking anything away from people that are at or near retirement now. But in the future, if things don't change, it's just simply not going to be there. And that's fiscal irresponsibility. So no one's saying that they're going to take it away. They just need to improve it. And he tried to get away with that lie, and obviously we didn't let him.
You didn't let him, and I think that's good. Let me ask you this. Do you think the American people are watching and noticing the amount of lies that flew out of his mouth last night? And usually there's like maybe, and I mentioned this earlier, forgive me if people have been listening all morning, but usually when a politician gives a speech, they are twisting data, or they're making the data say whatever it is that they want the data to say, because you can do that with numbers and percentages and the rest of that nonsense. But usually there's a way or an element of truth in some of these lies that politicians tell. Joe Biden just blatantly lied, and there's no debate as to whether or not these are lies or truth. They're clearly lies. Where do we take the State of the Union from this point moving forward? I mean, I realize that more than likely it's going to continue, but Senator Hagerty earlier just called this propaganda. That's what it is. Why do Republicans even play along with this nonsense? Is there any other choice?
Yeah, no, I mean, propaganda is the perfect word, because honestly, that's what the mainstream media does. We made fun of the Soviet Union in the 70s. You remember this, about how, their news was all propaganda. Well, that's where we're at today. And I blame the liberal media for a lot of the problems we have in this country, because people don't know where to find the truth, and people don't trust the media in general. And so where do you get straight talk? And you would hope that your president could stand up and say, hey, okay, instead of saying the State of the Union is strong, say the State of the Union is stable, but we're going to work together and it's going to get better. We've done this. We've been through rocky times in this country. We've been through wars. We went through a pandemic, and we can grow our way back out of this. Be honest. We know that things aren't good. We know we're not better off than we were 2 years ago. And so it would just be so, well, even the police thing, the Tyree Nichols parents were up there. We turned around and respected them because they lost a son, not because they were black, but the president had to take that opportunity to villainize the police and talk about the talk. And, most police officers I know are really good people, and they care, and they would die for you, trying to save and help you. But instead, he took it to make it an issue of race, when obviously these were 5 black police officers who did this. This wasn't a race crime. This was just some bad cops that are going to see justice. But he had to take the opportunity in front of the cameras to villainize police and make it an issue of race, when we're trying to unite the country. Instead, what he did was divide us even further. And, it gives me no hope that he's willing to work together. The border is probably the most glaring visual out there that everyone sees and can't deny. Why not just say, we've got to close the border, but then we need to work on comprehensive immigration reform. But until you close the border, that's not going to happen. And as you said, that's where the fentanyl's coming from. So to be so disconnected with the American people, stand up there and use that pulpit, that is not helpful. And, it would just be so refreshing to see somebody do the right thing just once.
Well, I think you're looking at the wrong party, Congressman. The Democrats aren't going to do that. The Republicans really need to stand up and call the president out, which they did, in which we have been doing all morning long here on Nashville's Morning News. And thank you very much for joining us here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Congressman Scott Desjarlais. And again, my eternal gratitude to you for having me as a guest last night at the State of the Union. It is, what time is it? 7:53 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The reason I'm in a bit of a time warp is because I'm in a studio and there's like 15 clocks around me, and they're all set to Eastern time. And so everywhere I look, it's, they say it's almost 9 o'clock. It's actually only 8:53 here in Nashville, Tennessee. Dan Mandis here on Nashville's Morning News. Well, I got to tell you, I really like what advanced hair can do for you if you have begun to bald. Now, when I started balding, I really would have liked to have had a company like Advanced Hair around to help me. But if you are starting to recede, my friends at Advanced Hair can help you. Studies show that one of the most attractive physical features is a full head of hair. Advanced Hair can help you. Here's a phone number you need to call. Tell them Dan told you to reach out. 629-348-HAIR. They can save your hairline. Now, that's why you need to call Advanced Hair right now. They are finally available near Nashville, and they have your quick one-day solution to your hair loss. 629-348-HAIR. Now, your hair does start to grow the very next day, guaranteed. 629-348-HAIR. You get a free consultation, and when you mention my name, $500 off. Find them online. It's advancedhair.com.
Sponsored by Jackson Hewitt.
Think mortgage rates are still super high? Think again. Rates have plummeted to 5-month lows. Call my friends at Loan Pronto now and see how low rates are. It may be time to do that refinance you've been putting off, or time to get back to house hunting. If you're like a lot of people, you have way too much credit card debt right now. You're getting fleeced with 20+% interest rates. Or maybe your current home rate is over 6%. Listen, you can get a quick and easy refi at Loan Pronto, wipe out all of those credit card debts, close in about 14 days, and cut your overall expenses by $500 a month or more. Right now, Loan Pronto is doing refis with APRs in the 4s. Call now and take advantage of this big rate drop. Get those credit cards to zero. Start that home improvement project. Get out of that 7% or higher loan you were forced into last year. Call 499-5780. That's 499-5780. Loan Pronto, 499-5780. Online at loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval. NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
WWTN, Hendersonville, Nashville, from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Studios.
And the Mark Spain Real Estate WTN Newsroom. Information fueled, opinion driven.
This is Nashville's news and talk leader.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 8 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, tracking the potential for some severe weather. But looks like the best chance for that's going to be after midnight tonight. Just some off and on showers today. But even without severe weather, we could have damaging winds. Right now, we've got some property damage out there due to crashes. Let's go through the list. Right now, you got Williamson County, Brentwood to be precise. A crash blocking the right shoulder 65 northbound right before Concord. Then in Sumner County, Louisville Highway northbound between 65 and Bethel Road, stop and go traffic. And then northbound 65 still closed due to that vehicle fire there around at Millersville. Another State of the Union address in the books. Here's Faith Abube.
The president's speech prompting multiple rounds of applause from both sides of the political aisle as he talked about issues like public safety, spotlighting the parents of Tyree Nichols in the room. But the warm welcome by the politically divided Congress quickly turning into a rowdy reception.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority.
Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene among those seen calling the president a liar. President Biden grinning and engaging with the jeering Republicans.
Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you, I enjoy conversion.
All right, so last year, Florida Republican U.S. Senator Rick Scott proposed that Congress reauthorize Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and veterans benefits every 5 years in order to be able to fix programs that might otherwise go bankrupt. The midterm elections were 9 months away at the time, and then earlier this month, Speaker Kevin McCarthy said when it comes to negotiations over raising the debt ceiling, cuts to Medicare and Social Security are, quote, off the table. Stay with Super Talk 99.7 WTN for continuing coverage. Nashville's Morning News, Dan Mandis in our nation's capital with analysis and reaction. Right now in Tennessee, the House Local Government Committee advancing that bill limiting the number of city council members in cities across the state to 20. Here in Nashville, there are 40. Channel 4 says Democrats sounding off.
This is a targeted attempt to usurp and undermine the will of the people and the voters of Davidson County. This action has been taken against the will of the voters and against the will of our elected officials.
Now, supporters of the bill say it's to rein in excessive government growth and a bill to ban transgender surgeries for boys and girls who think they are or want to be a different gender continues to advance. It passed the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday on a party line vote 7-2. And in southern Turkey and northern Syria, the earthquake and aftershocks death toll has climbed beyond 11,000. American search and rescue teams have landed in the region to help. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Futures down before the opening bell on Wall Street. Dow off 137, S&P 20, NASDAQ 52. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And go, my fellow Americans.
We talk news. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
8:07 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm sorry for the just slight delay in coming back. I am stupefied. I'm speechless, believe it or not, at what Jen Psaki said leading into the State of the Union last night. And I'm calling it the state of delusion. I would love to, by the way, take credit for that. But I think that is a name that is making its way ricocheting across social media. President Biden and the state of delusion, which is what many people are calling his State of the Union speech last night. This is very funny, though. Coming up, by the way, 2 minutes of absolute truth from Donald Trump. But this is funny. Jen Psaki, I don't even know, she was on some show somewhere, and she was talking about Joe Biden and what he had to do last night.
Biggest speech of the year any president gives. But what he needs to do is tell a story. Joe Biden is an amazing storyteller. I mean, you sit in the Oval Office, Crane can tell you, and he can storytell for 6 hours.
Man, he's been storytelling for like 50 years. I mean, is anybody listening to what Corinne Jean-Pierre is saying? Because, you know, storytelling, like as a little liar.
He's a yarn spinner.
That's what he is, Ken Weaver. He's a yarn spinner. I mean, I'm listening to this, and I thought, you know, is she trying to sort of thinly veil, you know, tell the American people she knows what Biden's doing? You know what I mean? Listen to it. Listen to it one more time, because I find this funny.
Biggest speech of the year any president gives. But what he needs to do is tell a story. Joe Biden is an amazing storyteller. I mean, you sit in the Oval Office, Crane can tell you, and he can storytell for 6 hours.
So I don't know. Very funny soundbite. And that, of course, preceding a State of the Union, where, as I've been documenting all morning long and proving that he was lying through not only my interview with Scott Desjarlais, Congressman Scott Desjarlais, but also the Senator Bill Hagerty, and also Hans von Spakovsky here at the Heritage Foundation, where I'm broadcasting from in our nation's capital. And so for once, Jen Psaki is right about something. The president is one hell of a storyteller. Now, how about some truth? Donald Trump, actually, last night after the president's State of Delusion, Donald Trump came on and he had his own take on what the president had to say, and he's got his own take on the state of our union. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump.
Here's the real State of the Union. Over the past 2 years under Biden, millions and millions of illegal aliens from 160 different countries have stormed across our southern border. Drug cartels are now raking in billions of dollars from smuggling poison to kill our people and to kill our children. Savage killers, rapists, and violent criminals are being released from jail to continue their crime wave. And under Biden, the murder rate has reached the highest in the history of our country. Biden and the radical Democrats have wasted trillions of dollars and caused the worst inflation in half a century. Real wages are down 21 months in a row. Gas prices have soared and are now going up much higher than even before. And the typical American family is paying $2,200 in increased energy and food costs each year. Joe Biden's weaponized Justice Department, and I'm a victim of it, is persecuting his political opponents. His administration is waging war on free speech. They're trying to indoctrinate and mutilate our children. He's leading us to the brink of World War III. And on top of all of that, he's the most corrupt president in American history, and it's not even close. But the good news is we are going to reverse every single crisis, calamity, and disaster that Joe Biden has created. I am running for president to end the destruction of our country and to complete the unfinished business of making America great again. We will make our country better than ever before, and we will always put America first. Thank you.
That's 2 minutes of truth from Donald Trump. And, you know, when he is focused on the issues and when he's focused on America and Biden and what he will do, can do, has done for this country, you really want him to stay focused on that, because he sounded really good there, and he does sound really fired up. And somebody please tell me where Donald Trump is wrong. I mean, there's not one nugget of disinformation or fake news in any of that. So that's Donald Trump. And it sounds like Trump is as pissed off as the rest of us. Now, one of the things, and maybe Michael or Matt or Brian can tackle this part, I have not seen, and maybe guys back at the studio, you can tell me if there's been any polling that has been done on the president's speech last night. You know, did the American people buy the speech? Did they not buy the speech? Did they think that it was a bunch of BS? How did America feel that speech went? Because, you know, it's one thing, you know, for yours truly, who I'm a conservative, so I'm just hell-bent on not liking anything that Joe Biden does. But here's the deal. Then it makes it easy to see through all of his incessant lies, which is what we got last night. I mean, there were many key moments in Biden's speech last night, and I've been playing you, I mean, I think I've played, about 20, 25 audio bites so far this morning. I'm about wrapped up, by the way. Coming up at 8:35, we're going to have the Gang of Three Amigos. However, I will not be there. It's going to be Johnny B., Ken Weaver, and also Chris Hand. He is going to be wrapping up Nashville's Morning News in front of Michael Del Giorno. I have a plane to catch, and I'm going to be honest with your friends, I have not gotten any sleep really in the last 24 hours. So I don't know if you've noticed, but your fair host has been fading fast. I do have a couple of other audio bites, though, that I want to play for you. This is Democrat, of course, guy by the name of Greg Casar, and he is asking what I would say is an absolutely ridiculous question, and it has to do with illegal immigration. This is what he said. He's basically asking the Republicans, why exactly is it are we talking about illegal immigration? What are y'all a bunch of racists?
On the border are U.S. citizens. The people suffering and dying from overdoses in our communities are U.S. citizens. So why on earth are we talking about immigrants today? Because Republicans in this Congress want to drum up fear about poor people who are fleeing to this country and distract from the real issues of mental health, overdoses, and poverty.
Is that so? Well, the Republicans most certainly reacted to that. I've got that reaction straight ahead. It is 8:15, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Time to check the roads from the Paul Winkler Investment WTN Traffic Center. Thank you very much, Jack. Appreciate it. Looks like we're going to have some rain today, high about 65 degrees. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News and Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So you just heard this Democrat, Greg Casar, and he's trying to make Republicans out to be some sort of racist if you are worried about and complaining about and pointing out the absolute train wreck that is our southern border. Well, apparently during that same hearing, one of my favorite congressmen, Republican Byron Donalds, he was on the case and he was talking about this quite a bit. And he asked a number of different people about the issues related to illegal immigration. Listen very closely to what he had to say.
2015, 331,000, 16, 408,000, 17, 303,000, 18, 396,000, 2019, 851,000, 2020, 400,000, 2021.
Are you noticing a pattern? The pattern, Byron Donalds, the pattern is that since Joe Biden took office, the pattern is that the number of illegal aliens and migrants, whatever you want to call them, is growing exponentially.
1.6 million. 2022, 2.2 million. There was somebody who became president of the United States in January of 21. And on January 2021, this gentleman actually got rid of the Migrant Protection Protocols, the MPP program. He stopped border wall funding. He actually gutted the interior enforcement against illegal aliens. He put a 100-day moratorium to study border security protocols. In your opinions, you've done this job, both of you, for quite some time, and we thank you for your service. But in your opinion, do you believe these policy changes actually led to the drastic increases in border encounters at the southern border?
And he's talking to some folks from the Border Patrol, I believe.
Thank you, sir, for the question, and I will try to go fast. What I can tell you in 27 years is that migration is very complicated. There are push and pull factors. The thing I can tell you that goes to the spike that you're talking about is in the Tucson sector, interviewing people post-arrest, what became the most common response was that they believed that when the administration changed, that the law changed and policy changed and that there was an open border.
Chief, I'm glad you said that because, ladies and gentlemen, the law did not change. Joe Biden decided not to follow the law.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. And realize, too, and I've said this 1,000 times, so I apologize, folks, for you people that have heard this before. But when you put out the welcome mat, and that is exactly what Joe Biden has done, when you put out the welcome mat, when you castigate the Border Patrol, when you tell ICE to stop prosecuting cases and going after folks, when you essentially say to the illegal aliens, you know what, you come on in because I'm going to defang all of the various agencies that are here to make sure that you are in our country legally and not breaking any laws. I'm going to do whatever I can to stand in their way of doing their jobs, of keeping you out and then kicking you out. Well, then the message is, come on in. The more the merrier. And let me tell you something. You have some of these people on Capitol Hill, some of these Democrats who say, oh, these are just poor, innocent people who are just looking for a better life. Well, as you know, that's not actually true. Some of these folks are actually raping young girls along the way.
It's been said in this hearing that this is not a criminal process or a criminal issue. This is a humanitarian issue. Are there young girls who are being raped in the journey to the southern border?
There are cases where we have debriefed many of the young ladies, migrants that have come into our custody at our central processing centers that have said that they've been abused.
So we have young girls who are being raped.
Yes, and that is clearly, obviously, a problem. And, you know, people mocked Donald Trump. People used to mock Donald Trump when he would say that his policies that really were meant to detract people from making that very dangerous trip across the desert and across our southern border. The president said that his ideas were more humanitarian. And the Democrats were saying, oh, how could he possibly say that? Oh, he's such an ogre, and he's a racist, and he's cruel, and he's mean. Well, let me ask this question. How many young girls were raped making that trek across the desert and attempting to get across our southern border? I would be willing to bet a lot less under Donald Trump than Joe Biden. Because what Joe Biden is doing is Biden is encouraging that kind of dangerous behavior. He is encouraging that kind of trip. And when you encourage that kind of trip, putting your life in danger, then that's clearly something that, at least to me, is encouraging that kind of a trip. And then ultimately those kind of trips end up with people dying in the back of really hot semis, young girls getting raped, and so on and so forth. That's why Donald Trump said, and I believe that this is true, I agree with the former president, that it is more of a humanitarian policy to say, no, don't make that dangerous trek. Apply legally in your own country, and then we'll follow the laws and the policies to get you in here legally. And for the former president, he was absolutely right. And so kudos to Byron Donalds for his take in that hearing. It is 8:22 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I want to tell you about my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. Even if you think you need some concrete leveling, some waterproofing, or some foundation work, the people you need to call are the people that I trust and that I've called, United Structural Systems. But don't listen to me. Listen to the 23,000 100% satisfied customers that they've helped over the years. Now, these folks at USS, they are the absolute best. They do great work, and they've got great warranties as well. Lifetime warranties that are transferable, and yes, they are guaranteed for the lifetime of your home. They'll also provide services with no down payment. So call them today. Tell them Dan Mandis from Nashville's Morning News told you to call 615-227-2275, 615-227-2275. USSTN.com is the website. United Structural Systems. Homeowners trust USS.
The Drive with Brian Wilson.
Because a lot of Democrats are going to say, well, I'd feel better about Joe if the number two was someone who would step in seamlessly and take over. I'll vote for the old coot as long as we got a number two we can trust. But nobody trusts Kamala Harris. And it's understandable why.
The Drive with Brian Wilson. Afternoons at 3. Super Talk 99.7.
Want to be the real hero this Valentine's? Genesis Diamonds makes it easy with the Total Romance Package. It's the jewelry, the flowers, the candy, and the dinner out. All the key ingredients for a memorable Valentine's celebration. Here's how it works. When you buy any piece of jewelry for just $99 or more, we'll give you some gourmet chocolates, a bouquet of flowers from Jenny's Flowers, and a gift card toward dinner at STK Steakhouse. We've pulled together some wonderful Valentine gift ideas for the occasion. Rings, earrings, pendants, bracelets, bands, affordable timeless gifts she can enjoy for years. And of course, if you're thinking of getting engaged this Valentine's, Genesis can create the ring of her dreams with our dazzling GIA diamonds and designer mountings. Unlimited possibilities. So bring the sparkle and the romance with one-stop shopping at Genesis Diamonds. Spend just $99 or more with us and get the flowers, the chocolate, and gift card for dinner as our gift. Happy Valentine's Day from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. Limited quantity. See store for details.
Kick off the new year with new home upgrades from Hiller. This month, when you buy something you need for your home, we'll give you something you want. For a limited time, when you purchase a new whole home generator, new tankless water heater, or select new HVAC systems, we'll give you a free 55-inch TV, free solo smokeless stove, or a free Nintendo Switch. Pick your prize when you upgrade essential systems for your home. Don't wait. Book online at happyhiller.com today.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
This report brought to you by Window Nation.
All right. President Biden's State of the Union address seen as a potential preview into his 2024 plans. You got to hear what Vice President Kamala Harris was asked and how she answered. Coming up at 8:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, Ken, I just realized I have so many pictures. I got a picture with Matt Gaetz.
All right.
I got a picture with Jim Jordan. I got a picture with a whole bunch of folks. So I'm gonna be posting them when I get back into Tennessee. So
Did
just
Jim
so you
Jordan
folks
try to put you in a wrestling hold?
No, he did not, but he's
a wrestler, you know.
He would if he knew what I'm about to say.
Uh-oh.
Which is, I was shocked at how short he is. But see, the funny thing is, you Google Jim Jordan and height, he's anywhere from like 5'7" to 6 foot tall. Now, I'm telling you that if I'm saying that Jim Jordan was short, then he's closer to my height than 6 foot.
So could you look him eye to eye?
Yes.
You didn't have to look up or look down or anything
Didn't
like that?
have to look up or down. It's funny because I said to Chris off the air, I said, I was shocked at how short Jim Jordan was. And then I look it up, and he's actually a little bit taller than me. But still. I guess when you're me, everybody just looks so much taller, so that when you're, Laputan size like me, then, it's like, oh, wow, somebody my size as well. Great guy, though.
I love how you said Laputan. You're getting use out of that word of the day calendar. That's awesome.
Hey, Chris, can you go get Johnny, please?
Yeah, I'll go get him, sir.
Yeah, very good. All right. By the way, I am out. I got to head to the airport real quick to catch my flight out of Reagan, so I cannot wait to get back to Middle Tennessee. Looking forward to seeing you folks tomorrow. Joe Giorno is up at 9, and the Gang of Three Amigos with Chris Hand and Johnny B. and Ken coming up next. I want to tell you about my friends, and these folks are awesome. I really like my friends at Betfair. Football fans, FanDuel has the perfect way for everyone to get in on the Super Bowl 57 action with a no-sweat same-game parlay. Now, that means that everyone gets bonus bets back if your Super Bowl same-game parlay doesn't hit. It doesn't matter if you're new to FanDuel or you already have an account. Same-game parlays let you combine all your favorite bets for a chance at a bigger payday. Now, me, I'm putting my money on the Chiefs to win, Patrick Mahomes for game MVP, and Travis Kelce is my anytime scorer. Now, if you're new to FanDuel, sign up with promo code Mandis when you download the app. Now, either way, you're going to get bonus bets back if your no-sweat same-game parlay doesn't hit. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in Tennessee. 3+ legs, minimum $1 bet required. Refund issued. It is non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Maximum bonus $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789.
Information-fueled, opinion-driven. Super Talk 99.7.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. President Biden's State of the Union address seen as a potential preview into the president's 2024 re-election campaign, although the White House isn't commenting. Vice President Kamala Harris speaking to Good Morning America today, addressing concerns about the president's age should he decide to run again.
I think that age is more than a chronological fact, to be very frank with you. It's about thinking about whether we have in our leader, which we do in Joe Biden, somebody who is bold.
Well, during the Republican response to the president's State of the Union address, new Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders said the Biden administration policies have led to worse inflation.
President Biden and the Democrats have failed you, and it's time for a change.
Right now in Tennessee, lawmakers debating a bill to provide free school breakfast and lunches. 2 free meals every day for each student in every district. The state would reimburse each school district after federal dollars are made available to the National School Lunch Program. Channel 4 says the cost of that bill still isn't known, but so far it has bipartisan support. Market Numbers Report. Market Numbers brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, beaconcm.com. Here's Jim Ryan.
Traders headed back to the floor this morning were focused on the mixed corporate earnings reports coming out this week. Before the opening bell, Dow futures were 118 points lower. The Dow and the S&P 500 were set to lose 0.5% in the early going. A day of drifting finally ended with a stock market rally that sent the Dow Jones 265 points higher yesterday to a close at 34,156. The Standard & Poor's 500 gained 1.3% on the day. The NASDAQ composite rose nearly 2%. Another tech company is cutting back. Zoom has announced that it will lay off 15% of its worldwide workforce in the coming months. The company head says that he'll give up his bonus and cut his own salary later this year to help Zoom turn a profit. Something new to dunk for NBA fans, Oreo cookies customized with your favorite team's logo. A package of a dozen of the special NBA cookies will sell for $40.
All right, we are 4 minutes into the trading day, and right now the Dow is off 113 points. The S&P is down 20. The NASDAQ is in the red as well, down 63. And that's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Have you recently switched to 5G home internet, and you're currently suffering from 5G home internet issues? Have you had mobile phone users take priority over your signal? Then you need to switch to Xfinity Internet today. With 3 times more bandwidth, supersonic speeds, and reliable connections you can count on, Xfinity gives you internet that works the way it is supposed to. And all you have to do is take the first step. Learn more at xfinity.com/TMOFacts. Now through February 21st, new customers can get 75 megabits per second Connect Internet. It's all just $20 a month for 12 months with a 1-year rate guarantee. Plus, there is no annual contract, so it is risk-free. Go to xfinity.com/TMOFacts, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today and tell them Dan Mandis told you to stop by. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Equipment taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular internet rates apply. Actual speeds may vary.
Direct Auto Insurance is for uncompromisers. With savings of up to 25%, you can stop compromising and keep driving. Get a free quote at directauto.com. Savings based on discounts and vary. How you buy can affect price. National General Group, Winston-Salem.
Yes. Hey, Jim, everything okay? Did you see that catch?
No. Yeah, I'm happy about the touchdown. Just things are kind of off with me and Tiffany.
Hey, what's going on?
It's a little embarrassing, but I'm not making it happen in the bedroom. I don't know what's going on with me. And now Tiffany's upset. She thinks I'm not attracted to her anymore.
Hey, I had the same problem. But, man, I found a secret.
Oh, yeah?
I started going to the Tennessee Men's Clinic for treatments, and boom, our sex life improved. Plus, I started taking testosterone, and I've got loads more energy.
Tell me more. Maybe it'll work for me.
The people at Tennessee Men's Clinic are low testosterone and ED specialists with multiple treatment options. It definitely helped me. And I got to tell you, now I can go the distance every time. Heather says I'm better than ever.
Hey, I'm in. What's their contact info?
You can book appointments online or just give them a call.
Great. Thanks, man. Hey, could you move away from the TV? You can't see.
Your first visit to the Tennessee Men's Clinic is only $99. Book your appointment today. Call 615-208-9090 or book online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatments extra. Results vary.
.65 North still got that closure here around that truck fire from overnight, and that's got things slowed down a little bit. 65 starting to look a little bit better now, though. 40 east here to Charlotte as you come around the corner into downtown Wedgwood at 16th Avenue South. And Franklin to Brentwood here got some backup around that wreck from earlier at Concord. Northbound on 24 still got a little bit of slow go here around Laverne and Hobson Pike and Murfreesboro Pike wreck. I'm Jack Womack. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
From the Beacon Capital Management Weather Center.
What a weird morning. 8:39. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is the time for the Gang of Three Amigos, the second version. Dan Mandis on his way now to the airport to fly back here. But you've got Ken Weaver in the newsroom. Good morning, Brother Ken.
Good morning, boys. How are you?
And in my place, none other than Chris Hand. Good morning, Chris.
Hello, good sir. Thank you for keeping the seat warm for me.
You bet. Thank you for creating this. This is what we had this morning for all you people that like to look at the WTN TV. Since you would be missing Dan Mandis, we made sure we got a picture. And I got the picture, but then when Dan was describing his injury that he had, which I don't know whether to believe it or not. But anyway, Chris is the one that found the cool Band-Aid. So that was cool.
Yeah, I put a Band-Aid on the stand-in picture of Dan.
Dan hit his head going to the bathroom and cut it. So he had to put a Band-Aid on his forehead.
Yeah, he did. And it was really strange. When a previous marriage of mine, we were out of town in a hotel room. And the wife at the time got up to use the restroom. It was in the middle of the night. All of a sudden, wham, she hits the door.
Oh, no.
And, of course, there's blood. And so we had to call the front desk. The woman at the front desk honestly thought I hit her. I could tell.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, because she's telling her this story, and the woman's kind of got the,
going, yeah,
giving a look at me like, you know.
Giving a look to your wife like, you can talk to me.
Yes, let's have him leave the room. We'll talk privately.
Is the door that did this to you in the room with us now?
Hey, no lie, man. I've one time in high school, completely sober, I will say, Went into a convenience store, opened the door, and hit myself right square between the eyes.
Yikes.
Didn't think anything about it. I grabbed my, at the time, this was whenever Tostitos first came out, the round kind. Remember that? That was a big deal.
Oh, that was
because I'd get myself a big old bag of Tostitos and some cheese dip after work every night, which is why I am the way I am today. But anyway, I walk in there and I hit myself right square between the eyes with that door. Go about my business, get my stuff, and the clerk's looking at me really oddly. And I get in my car and look in the rearview mirror, and I just got blood pouring from my forehead.
You're sure he was looking at you oddly because of the blood and not because of the excitement over Circle chips?
That was a big deal, man, when those Doritos or Tostitos came out round.
Game changer.
As for dipping.
Well,
those are dipping chips.
That's for radio people right there.
That's right.
Us radio people, we get excited over the weirdest things.
Gives us our good looks.
Yeah, it sure does. Jay Leno almost had it right. It's not politics. It's radio that's show business for ugly people. Hey, Mr. Mandis, he's not like the rest of, whenever we go to some resort or somewhere, Ken Weaver or myself, we will jump for the hot tub. We will
yes.
Go. But Dan is real leery of hot tubs.
Right.
It could be that Dan is correct.
Uh-oh.
Yes, it said hot tubs, of course, were used all the way back into ancient Greece. But they say this age-old tradition has a dirty little secret.
Okay.
Whatever we have on our skin gets into the water around us, and that this can include feces and urine.
Yep.
Sounds
about right.
What in the world possessed you to tell us this?
Well,
I thought he was going to go in a different direction when he said Dan's not like us. I was like, oh, you mean he gets invited to fancy places?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
And shindigs?
Yeah, that is. Well, you see that Scott Desjarlais didn't invite any of us to the State of the Union for good reason. But when you're relaxing in the jacuzzi, it's likely you'll breathe in bacteria, viruses, and fungi.
All right.
Yeah, so it sounds like Dan may be onto something. He said the more people in the tub with you, the higher the feces levels in the water. Oh, my God. Chemicals used to purify water can cause skin and eye irritation.
All right.
So they tell you need to rinse off real well when you get done, not just because of...
maybe a little before and after.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does it do to a short, fat guy's beard? Does it say anything about that?
Yeah, beards are that's just a breeding ground for all kinds of nastiness.
What about round Tostitos?
Round Tostitos. They taste yummy in hot tub.
You might find one floating near you.
Instead of a hot tub, it's a big tub, if you know what I mean.
Yes, sir.
Big tubby.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, they say hot tubs can help. This is where they're good. They can help with muscles, sore joints, and psychological well-being.
Yeah.
So I'll take that over, The way I look at it, my body's been a scientific, experiment anyway. So I'm willing to try anything.
What's a little fecal matter for some psychological well-being?
Yeah,
right?
come on. I mean, I feel better when I'm in the jacuzzi. I feel great.
We got to rank these things.
Yeah. So every one of us here are parents. Now, Chris, your your kids are fairly young.
Yeah, what I said to Ken earlier off the air, I said I'm in the thick of it.
Yes, you are.
10 months, 3, 5, and 9.
Oh, man, you are in the thick of it. And Ken, your children...
I got a 22-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son.
So you still have one, maybe two at home.
Yeah, I got two at home, man.
So you got two at home.
Yeah.
And, my kids... I won't even go into that. But my kids are grown up and on their own, and one we're really close to. The other one, we have two other boys, and Lord knows what they're up to. But anyway, they say that you may want to let kids do some more things on their own. It might be good for their lifespan, is what they're saying, and what they're basically telling you is that it may lead to a shorter lifespan if you're a helicopter parent. They say men with an overprotective father had a 12% higher risk of dying before age 80.
I get that.
Yeah. And my dad was like, we called him our Jewish mother because he wanted to run your life, basically. And so, yeah, I can see why an overprotective parent would be a little bit.
Jordan Peterson has a thing where he says, don't bother children when they're skateboarding. And it's all on that. It's that same idea of let them do something dangerous. Let them do something where, the risk of injury is there because you're sharpening those skills for life and, risk assessment and all that kind of stuff. So don't bother your kids when they're skateboarding.
Exactly. They say women with an overprotective father had a larger increased risk of dying before age 80. So if you have a father that's, if you're a girl, if he's constantly in your way, they say the middle way is best, avoiding both intrusiveness, which stops children from being autonomous, as well as negligence or emotional distance. So you don't want that. You just want a happy medium where you're, you do keep an eye out for them, but you're not constantly hovering.
See, I appreciate the freedom my parents gave me. I mean, I was 9 years old, and my parents both worked, so in the summers, just had a babysitter all day long. But I was able to the minute I got up in the morning, I was hopping on my bike, grabbing my buddy across the street, and we were riding our bikes to the neighborhood swimming pool a mile away at 9 years old.
Well, I was much the same way, Ken.
But I wouldn't let my kids do that.
Well, see, my parents, I'm not saying they were horrible parents. They just weren't very. Dad was the kind of guy that he would throw you in the pool, and if you swam, that's great.
That's how fish do it, boy.
Yeah, and if you didn't make it, well, you weren't. It's just thinning of the herd there. But when I was about 12 or 13, I was telling my wife this. Because I used to love this movie. There was a motorcycle racer I loved. His name was Mert Lawwill. And Mert's still with us, by the way. I looked him up.
All right.
But I was big into motocross, where the motorcycles jump and, they're doing
all my friends were too, man.
Well, I was probably 13 or 14. I snuck my motorcycle down to the motocross track, which is about 7 miles away from our house. Had my buddy on the back with a toolbox.
Yes.
Now, they weren't racing at the time. They were practicing. So I'd go on the track, and I'm racing these guys that do it legitimately. I mean, they do it every weekend at this place, and they're practicing. So I get out on the track, and I'm beating a lot of them. I'm out riding these guys, and so I want to race. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Man, I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah.
My Honda 175 beat this, Husqvarna 450. And this guy races all the time. In fact, the guy came up and told me, he said, kid, you write really well. You may want to think about doing this.
All right.
So my parents didn't want me to do it, but me and my buddy, we snuck out one more time. And we drove down to the track. And I tried to enter, and they said, you need a parent's permission. And that... We tried to fake it, but they saw through us, and so I didn't get to race.
Sorry about that, brother.
I know. It's just part of my luck in life. I didn't get to do what I really wanted to do.
I feel like you snuck out more than once after that, though.
Oh, yeah. You kidding? I snuck out all the time.
See, fortunately, I didn't have to sneak out. I mean, my parents, all I had to do was I had to let them know where I was when it was getting dark.
Yeah.
Then I could go back to wherever I was for maybe another hour or so, or until my friends went home.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, I feel guilty about it. I didn't give my kids that kind of freedom. I just couldn't do it.
Well, I think times are a little different now, too. I mean, there's more you got to worry about today than we did back then.
Well, I'd been a reporter,
yes,
too, and I've seen things that, honestly, I probably have some PTSD from some of the things that I've seen.
I'm sure. Just repeating those headlines every morning has to give you some PTSD sometimes.
Yes.
I mean, he spent a lot of this morning on Joe Biden's State of the Union. I'm
that's
surprised the
enough.
man is not all broken up in there.
Yeah, in fact, I thought Dan hurt himself by just, hitting his head, having to listen to Joe Biden last night.
Yeah, spoiler alert, it was Dan just hitting his head against the wall.
Going,
why am I doing this?
I can't believe I came here. To the belly of the beast.
Well, he got lots of sleep, that's for sure.
Yes, he did.
Tongue in cheek.
But back to the kids thing, with helicopter parents, it's so much different now, Ken, than even when your kids were little. Because now, if you give them a cell phone, you can literally track your kids via GPS.
Oh, yes.
Like,
And
that's
I do.
helicoptering to a crazy level. Like,
Yeah.
I feel bad for some kids these
Yeah,
days.
our daughter,
too.
she protested against that for a long time. My daughter did not like that.
Well, I can't blame them.
Yeah.
I can't blame them because you do need some privacy, even if you're a kid.
It is true. You have got to learn things on your own.
Yes.
You really do. And, many times, if the parent it's like what Chris was talking about, letting your kid ride the skateboard or the bike. I mean, remember how many times we wiped out on our skateboards and bikes?
Oh,
Yet
yeah.
we lived and we learned. Good grief, man. In the summers growing up, I constantly had bloody knees and elbows. And, it's hard to do as a parent. But you got to let your kids do that.
Well, that's how they learn because,
that's right.
I broke, in riding motorcycles, I broke about every arm and leg I've got. And that's the only way I learned. Well, first, you better map out what the field looks like.
Right.
Before you start
But one thing
jumping.
I'll say, too, about, growing, things that are different now than whenever I was growing up, there were adults everywhere in the neighborhoods where I grew up. We constantly had eyes on us. Nowadays, if I do see kids out and about, they're isolated.
No, you're absolutely right.
I mean, they may be alone walking or riding their bike somewhere, and that's dangerous.
Yeah, that is dangerous, and that's where it's different too. Is that back in our day, there was a parent that probably didn't work. That was at home.
Yeah.
Those days have kind of come to an end. So
I worry about what it's going to do for the kids once they become adults when you think about the surveillance state and how these kids have had cameras on them room from the time they were in a baby crib to the time that they, were everywhere, basically. They've been under surveillance.
Exactly.
And it's normal.
Well, we'll leave it there, guys. Hopefully kids will learn. And, gosh, I'm glad we grew up when we did, to be quite honest.
Stay off my lawn.
Yeah, just stay off my lawn. And what about she, huh? What about she? You want to lead China? I don't think so. Michael Del Giorno's on the way next. Thanks for listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Download the TuneIn app so you can take WTN with you wherever you go.